What up, though? This is the Roar of the Lions UK podcast, the podcast where six guys from around the British Isles get together to talk about anything and everything Detroit Lions. My name is Anthony Fitzpatrick, and I'm joined by my co-host this evening, Ryan McCluskey. You can guess it's a Wednesday. The two of us are here, which means that it is, yes, another college football podcast. Ryan, I know, sorry, we started maybe a bit earlier this week than anticipated, but how are you getting on?
I'm good, yeah. Yeah, Bradford won last night. Good start to 2022. So things are looking up. But I'm not getting my hopes up because they'll just dash all over them anyway.
I can't say nothing about football. Our manager's currently serving a suspension for I don't know what. No one's saying what. We're top of the league. We're finally having a good season, and he's been suspended for something. And the things I'm reading are really not pretty. But we'll see. Anyhow, we're not here to talk about football. Well, we are, but we're here to talk about college football. And we have a lot to go through for you this week. So on last week's episode, we went over the Senior Bowl offense, gave you a little rundown of the players who are on the Lions side, maybe some of the guys to look out for. And as promised, today we are going to take a look through the defensive side of the ball now that everyone has been assigned to a team, and we've got special teams on there as well because hashtag special teams matter too. We are going to also be taking a little look at the HCBU combine, which is coming up this weekend. I'll explain that to you a little bit more in a minute, but first we're going to start with a bit of news, and we're going to start with a little bit of sad news this week. Unfortunately, this is a week that we found out that one of the great collegiate careers of all time came to an end. And if you do know your college football and you do know what we're talking about, you'll know of this guy. And we're, of course, talking about one Tate Martell, who especially Ryan has mentioned quite a few times here on this pod. He has retired from the college game. He was one of the most hyped prospects once upon a time in recent memory. He was a former five-star prospect. Age 14, he was already committed to the University of Washington, would have been playing in the Pac-12. But he went to high school at Bishop Gorman. His 3 seasons there, he never lost a game. They went 45-0. He threw 113 touchdown passes, won the Player of the Year twice. And then as a senior, he threw for 2,362 yards, 41 touchdowns, and only threw 1 interception. He also added 1,257 yards on the ground and 21 rushing touchdowns, on his way to another Player of the Year award and a whole stack of honors there. But that's probably where he reached the pinnacle of his career. He had one of the biggest recruiting sagas in history. Ram will probably mention a little bit more to you the vast majority of the moves he had, but his career as it went, he decommitted from Washington in 2015 and chose to join Texas A&M instead. But only a short 12 months later, he reopened his recruitment for a third time, worked his way to Ohio State. He got beaten out at Texas A&M by one Nick Starkel, who was the quarterback for the San Diego State Chargers, I believe, entering the draft this year. Quite a famous scene where he said by text to one of his mates that Starkel was complete ass, and he couldn't beat him out. So yeah, he ended up going to Ohio State. He spent 2 seasons with the Buckeyes. He played 6 games as a freshman, threw 1 touchdown pass. But then Justin Fields arrived, and again, another one of the infamous messages he posted on Twitter is, better take your shot. You're not going to get a second chance at it. Well, Justin Fields went there, took his shot, took the starting job, and that was all she wrote. He transferred out to the Miami Hurricanes. After that happened, he played in 3 games for the Hurricanes as a sophomore. He only completed 1 pass before he opted out of the 2020 season due to the pandemic. And then when that was done, he transferred again. This time, he went to the University of Nevada in Las Vegas, the Raiders out there. He played just 2 games this past season. He threw 2 passes, 2 completed passes out of 6 attempts for 27 yards and no touchdowns. His entire collegiate career, he completed 26 of 35 passes for 303 yards, 1 touchdown, and no interceptions. He never started a single game. Ryan, this has to be one of the more unbelievable stories of a guy once so hyped, the world was at his doorstep, as it were, and oh dear.
When I mentioned, like, say, we'll dedicate an episode to him, I didn't actually think we'd do it because I can't stand the kid. No one can. He is one of the most unlikable players I think I've seen in college football for a number of years. He, like I said, I hope he can't sue us for libel, can he? He's never going to wear this.
I don't know.
No.
Nick Williams saw my tweet about him, so you know.
Yeah, I've always thought of him. He's like he's a home bargains pound shop Johnny Manziel, but with half the talent. But he brings all the drama. You only have to go back to his time at Bishop Gorman when they played Cedar Hill out of Texas, and the moment he got off the field, he tweeted Texas who, and then an hour later he tweeted a map of United States, but he cut out Texas and put Nevada there. So the fact he even had the audacity to try go Texas A&M when everyone in the state hated him, he's got balls. To give him that. He failed to try and move to wide receiver. He did that at University of Miami when he realised he's never going to be a quarterback. So he only took minimal snaps there. I don't think he ever got a reception. I think he was only on the minimum blocking players. I think he was on QB. I think he was on the first season like QB1 under the lights. That's when people really didn't take a shine to him. They realised he's a bit of a brat. Right, the talent was there, but unfortunately, this is one of those careers that just transgress where he run out of options. He burnt up all his goodwill. He used all that up. That's the reason he ended up back in Las Vegas, a poor UNLV team, and still could make zero impact. So the infamy of Tate Martell will always live on. He was fun, like I say, 45-0, I believe, at Bishop Gorman, who were the biggest side in Las Vegas. They're not up there with their best high schools out of Cali and Texas, but they could hold their own. He should have been so much better than he was. But I do also love the fact, like I say, when he was tweeting that, like I say, to tweet something about taking a shot and be a willing dog to compete and then to enter a transfer portal because he got beat out. Like, it kind of just sums it all up, doesn't it? Like I say, so his legend will live on forever. But kids, if you're watching this, don't do what he did. Please don't follow his path. But could be a very successful businessman. Like I say, he's going to get deals because he's a big name. So I'd expect he's going to probably do something in some form of industry.
Yeah, I think I read somewhere that they're saying his businesses, I can't remember what they were, are already taking off and he's actually quite successful at whatever he's doing. It sounds like he's been retired a while, actually. It sounds like there's something they've just said recently, but they were like, oh yeah, he's retired. It's like, oh, this looks like it was a matter in the past. But yeah, Duran says just that is a message there. You can have all the talent in the world, but don't buy into the hype for anybody, even at draft level, until they start producing on the pitch and start working out on that promise. It just shows how it can all really go wrong there. So yeah, the Tate Martell story comes to an end, but at least it gave us a title for this episode this week. We neglected to really talk about the transfer portal last week. I know there is still a little bit of movement around in there. Is there anything transfer portal wise that has caught your eye in the last week? I do know there's still a lot of people going in there this moment. You think it was starting to settle down a little bit now, but there's still some big names who are making the jump, trying to get to a new team at the last moment.
There's been an awful lot of stuff. Like I say, it's definitely quieting down now. I'm trying to remember his name. Henry something. Texas A&M just lost the number 3 nation and recruiting the nation, the linebacker. I think he just decommitted yesterday. Like that was huge. I've also seen that Wisconsin are almost one of the leaders to land Caleb Williams, which I find so odd. Such a run-heavy team, but they will have a sophomore, Braylon Allen, one of the best backs in the nation. Maybe it's genius. I can't see it there. They don't seem like a mix because they're not a pass-heavy team. Don't have the receivers, but I've been told they're one to watch out for. So I think that is something. I'm pretty sure he's close to making a decision now. He's narrowed down his options. The big gap's still got to be Ole Miss. Like I say, we're still looking who's going to be that quarterback there. Lane Kiffin is still making pushes. They're losing in the race for Arch Manning. I think I've read that they're slipping further and further away. You've got likes of Georgia, Bama, even Texas. They are getting all the crystal balls. So the future in Oxford, Mississippi is very unclear so far. I don't know who's going to be the future quarterback or who's going forward there.
Yeah, I saw a little article earlier today, and they said Saban and Kirby Smart were both at a basketball game, I believe, with Archie Manning, and they're there trying to convince him to go and join their respective causes. So it is an odd one, is it? I mean, it can't be good for them if they're just going to go into the season. They're going to miss out on all the top quarterbacks, all the guys that have been in the portal this year. They've had their pick of some of the creme de la creme, really, and to come out of it with nobody would be a disaster.
I think I've read somewhere they're gonna have to settle for JT Daniels. I think they have brought him in for a visit. I think there is mutual interest there. Jermaine Burton also went as well, but the former Georgia wide receiver has chosen Bama. I believe he's put in a verbal commitment there. So they have swapped between SEC rivals. But it's not even for not trying. Like Lane Kiffin, from what I've seen, has tried his ass off. He met Bo Nix, who was texting him all the time. They wanted the likes of Dylan Gabriel. And it's not, I don't get why they've struggled, because when you look at them, maybe they might struggle next year. They might not reach those lofty heights, but they're a huge team. Like they've got a huge collegiate fan base, a big student section. It's the SEC. I don't know. Is it Lane Kiffin? Does he put people off, do you think?
Well, I mean,
He's
you look at that,
polarizing.
I mean, you look at that division. I mean, South Carolina, the Gamecocks, they got Spencer Rattler, they got Austin Stoner going there. They've loaded up their draft class, and traditionally, like you say, they're not as big a team. So how have they been able to convince someone like Rattler to go there, but Ole Miss haven't been able to convince someone to go there? The SEC looks like it's going to be even tougher this year.
I saw someone that's predicted that South Carolina can only go 7-5. They've got a really hard schedule, but I had them at like 8.5 wins next year. I think they could do really good stuff. I think it's probably Shane Beamer. People think Beamer is a fantastic coach and a really nice, likable guy. So he's got some great pickups there. So the Gamecocks are building momentum next year. Ole Miss, it looks like regression. Like I said, they're losing backs to the NFL. Lost Drummond, so they'll be relying, I think, on Braylon's Edwards. There's a receiver, so I'm not sure what's going to happen. Their leading transfer linebacker, he's entering the draft. I think he declared a few days ago, Chance Campbell, who came in for a year. So big turnover coming in Oxford.
Yep. Going to be very interesting to see. So, we'll hope they may be able to pick up a guy, and we'll let you know going forward. But yeah, the transfer portal has not really quietened down at all, and we'll keep an eye for any other big moves that occur. Really it for the news this week. Is there any other news that has caught your eye this week, or you're good?
No. I don't believe so.
No, it's been a bit of a slower one on sort of the main scene there. So obviously, the big news that is coming and does concern the Lions with college football. The Senior Bowl week is approaching. It actually starts this Friday, and that is what this episode pretty much is primarily dedicated to today. So obviously, the main camps start next week. All the players start arriving, the games take place, etc., etc. But this coming Friday, there is the first event of this week, and it's the start of combine season. You wouldn't think that, because the combines don't really start till March, April, the pro days, etc., etc. But there is a new combine which has hit the circuit this year. It was meant to come last year, but because of COVID, they were not able to do this. But as part of Senior Bowl week, the NFL are going to be running their first ever HCBU combine. Now, that is the historically black college and university scene that refers to. So any draft eligible HBCU players will be able to put their athletic ability on display for all 32 NFL teams who will have scouts there. Now, this is to provide exposure, mentorship, and development opportunities for HBCU prospects and simplify talent identification and prospect evaluation. The event runs 2 days on the 28th and the 29th of January. First day, like a regular combine. You do all the medicals, the drug testing, the team interviews, all that sort of arrival bits. And then on day 2, you've got the athletic workouts, positional training, and further team interviews if players so wish to. In 2021, I'm mixing up my years here, the 2021 draft, there were no HCBU players who were drafted directly, and only 10 who were signed as undrafted free agents. So, say the big aim of this combine is to provide an opportunity for guys to get more exposure in front of NFL scouts and increase their chance of being drafted. Now, all these guys, they play down in the FCS, so you may not have heard of them before. But what we've done, we've got a list of the guys who were there, and we're going to have a little look through some of the positional groups, give a little bit of feedback on the Ryan. I hope you've done some for this, because I have bitten off a lot more than I could chew with this. I thought that some of them I might be able to get a little bit for everybody, but for some of these guys, it's been really difficult to find anything. But there are a few quite promising prospects this year, actually. So we're going to start with the quarterback room. And just to put in perspective, no HCBU quarterback has been drafted since 2006. That was Tavares Jackson. He actually went number 64 overall to the Minnesota Vikings, and I believe his career lasted over a decade in the NFL, all told. So the quarterback class we have this year, we have Akil Glass, the Alabama A&M quarterback, Felix Harper from Alcorn State, Jet Duffy from Hampton, Juwan Carter from Norfolk State, Jawan Pass from Prairie View A&M, and Ladarius Skelton from Southern. Now, the first guy we're going to start with is the one who you might actually have heard of. This guy has got a lot of buzz about him, and there is a very good possibility this guy actually might be getting drafted to a class near you, and that is Akil Glass. So he is the Alabama A&M quarterback. He's 6'4", 230 pounds. His career, he has thrown 923 completed passes out of 1,573 attempts. It's a 57.18% completion rating. He's got 12,136 passing yards, 109 touchdowns, 41 interceptions, a passer rating of 148.7. That is increased year upon year. And he also has 4 rushing touchdowns as well. So just to give you a little bit of background on him, he's a 5-year starter. This makes him one of the most experienced QBs in the draft, all told, even out of all the FBS guys. He led Alabama A&M to their first SWAC title. They play in the Southwestern American Conference, the Southwestern Athletic Conference. So yeah, they won their first SWAC title in 15 years in 2020. He was a big part of that. Struggled as a freshman initially, but he got a new head coach in, I think it was about 2017. Their head coach, actually a guy called Connell Mayer. Now, he's a former HCBU quarterback himself and was a player for nearly 20 years, played in the American Football League as well, that one that we all forget ever existed. And this guy was actually, if you've ever watched the movie Any Given Sunday, he was actually the stunt double in that for Jamie Foxx's character, the guy who threw all the passes in there. A fun little bit of trivia there for you. But as a player himself, he has the physical build and the arm strength required to play in the NFL. He's got a really big arm, which can stretch the field. He's got a beautiful touch ball. That's basically the ability to be able to throw it into a narrow path if you need to. That's obviously a big plus if he wants to go to the pros. He's got accuracy. You know, if he throws, he's got the ability to throw it accurately. His accuracy may not be great now at 57%, but that again has gone up year on year. He's situationally very aware. He uses his eyes very well, goes to all his reads, just doesn't go with his first read there. The big problem with him when it comes to the draft, and something he's really going to need to get addressed, is his lower body mechanics. So his footwork, his deep ball accuracy is not great. Doesn't plant his feet properly when he's throwing his passes. So a lot of his passes are either too short, too long, because he's not setting himself properly. He gives himself an inconsistent platform when stepping up to throw. Again, doesn't plant his feet right when he's trying to put power behind his throws. And he rushes his throws before he settles into stance as well. So again, sort of all footwork issues there that he has to deal with. But if he can make improvements, noticeable improvements. If he has a good combine here, shows that his footwork is going to get better, then I believe, he's got every chance to be drafted. I've seen some mock drafts taking him as high as rounds 5 or 6, possibly. But I mean, if you're looking for a development guy, Ryan, here, if he can clean his footwork up, then he's a very tempting prospect, especially one who can maybe, break this duck of HCBU quarterbacks not getting drafted.
No, I agree. I've watched some of the Alabama games this year. A&M, Akil Glass has been highlighted by. I've seen people talking about on Twitter. The FCS post. He's a big young strapping lad. He's got a good arm. He's definitely the prospect to watch from the HB. Out of all groups, he's the one to watch at this combine. I believe he's got the biggest chance of being able to make it. I'd say as a keeping a roster spot, or he's an ideal candidate for your practice squad next year. He's got the arm. I'd say he's very experienced. He's got an average of like a 62% pass completion rate on each year. The touchdown to interception ratio is there. He's like averaging like 31 touchdowns a year. Keeps the interception somewhere between 10, 15. So he moves the ball really well. He can make every throw in the book. He's got that escapability as well. So he's able to keep players alive that I've seen. So he's got some nice footwork and that poise in the pocket, the presence to flush out when needs be. So I'm surprised he's played his entire career at this level. Like I say, he's not looked further, but he's been very successful at what he's done. He's led a good, I think they're the Lions. He's led a really good offense in his time there. And he's been successful, won a number of games under his belt. So for sheer experience, you're looking at someone that is actually up there with guys that you could expect to go undrafted or pick as a future later rounds. I saw someone, I think Math Bomb, actually. He did a mock yesterday and we take him in the 7th round. He thinks he's a prospect to look at. So I think he's certainly someone that's keep an eye on. I think he could put up some good athletic numbers as well, because I think on the bench press as well, like you say, he's got big arms, stuff like that. I think he'll look really good.
Yeah, I sat down and actually watched a bit of his tape and I was quite impressed with him. They say his accuracy it can be an issue at times, but when he gets it right, I mean, God, he throws the ball beautifully and he can make some really good throws, especially if he's doing it into tight coverage as well. I'm quite intrigued actually, because if you're not going to take a guy up front, if you're going to go for a guy later on, then, he's better than any. This is a draft class where I think for quarterbacks, you're ripe for the picking. If you need a bit of developing, it doesn't matter because there are no standout guys. There are guys who are, there are seasoned veterans retiring from the NFL this year. More starting jobs are open, less starters are around. This is a good year for you because teams, I reckon, are going to take more. They're going to plump more for quarterbacks. They might take 2. They might take 1 at the start, 1 late, see what they can get out of the both of them. So, if he can have a good combine this week, and if he can, as I say, work on that footwork a bit more, get a good pro day and wherever he goes, show that he can, his feet are getting better, I think there's every chance he could maybe get drafted. But yeah, I agree with you. I think he is the standout guy to watch for this weekend. So we'll see how he goes. In relation to the other quarterbacks, the only other one I sort of thought that could possibly have a chance of getting drafted or would make a priority free agent anyhow, that's Felix Harper. He's the quarterback from Alcorn State. He's 5'11", 180 pounds. They call him the trigger man. And I found out this because he has a quick release and his instincts are lightning fast, sort of a la a Big Ben type guy. He can get the ball out really quickly, really accurately. And, actually he shows a few of the same traits there. He's in that same sort of gunslinging mold of what Big Ben is. He's a 2-time All-American. He's 2-time SWAC champion, the Alcorn State. Yeah, they've won it twice in recent years. Obviously, size at 5'11" is a little bit of a hindrance, but for me, he could make a very intriguing day 3 prospect as well, or as I say, a priority free agent, especially for a team like the Steelers. If they're looking to maybe replace the type of quarterback they had before, I think this guy could possibly do it. Have you seen anything on him? I've watched a little bit of him, and I do agree he does have a really good quick release throw on him, which is accurate. But obviously, there are a lot of issues he needs to work on as well.
I've not seen a lot of him. No, I had another one to highlight. Like I say, Jet Duffy. Now I know that name because he spent 3 years at Texas Tech. He was a Red Raider, so he had 2 years as a majority starter. So this guy is very experienced, but he's totally different to Glass. He's only 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, so he's not the biggest guy. The arm is where he lets himself down. So 3 years as a starter, including this year at Hampton, he's got 1,200 yards, 2,800, 2,500. So his touchdown ratio to interception is very similar. So you've got 8 and 6, 18 and 5, and 15 and 12. The way you look at him is he's a fantastic rusher. He had 10 rushing touchdowns this year, and he carried the ball 116 times, compared where he only completed 174 passes. So his ratio to passing to running was nearly about 43% to 57. So he's someone that I think he's got a future as a running back at the next level. I don't think he'd play quarterback. Now, I think he offers good value there because he got 439 yards this year, 4 yards a carry. Before that, Texas Tech had about 600 yards rushing. So he's someone that is very comfortable in the ball in his hands, and he's able to have that little speed about him. He only led them to a 5-6 conference record this year, 3 and 4 in conference play in the Big South. But I don't feel like that's all on him. I'd say he's a great mobile quarterback, and the numbers for his quarterback rating throughout the year have been very good. It just wasn't on the best team this year. He struggled to hold down a big time FBS job because Texas Tech have struggled in the last few years. So he's someone that definitely will potentially get workouts, I think, at other positions, a bit like Trace McSorley did. So he could certainly, I think he'll have one of the best times maybe at the combine. You're going to watch his 40 and his cone drills. But I suspect his future doesn't lie at quarterback, but he's listed as one. So we'll see his arm too.
I've got in my notes here for him that he's had significant legal troubles as well. I can't remember what it was for. There were a couple of guys who did have issues, but that.
Yeah, he tried to transfer to CMU and he had academic issues. I don't think he was eligible, and he had an off-the-field issue. So I think he had to miss a year and then dropped down to the FBS. It wasn't academically eligible for an FBS school, I think.
Yeah, that was it. So, well, yeah, like I say, potentially the guy, he's been there at Texas Tech. He'd done it. I was reading about him, and I wondered why that he would drop down to where he did, especially as, again, Texas Tech have not been the greatest at quarterback. So another name to look out for sure. Out the other three guys. So Juwan Carter, the guy from Norfolk State. So he's been there 4 years. He's got 10,248 all-purpose yards, 70 passing touchdowns, 16 rush touchdowns. In my notes, all I wrote is he's quite composed when he's in the pocket, but if he needs to escape it, he is quite an elusive guy as well. Norfolk State is a very run-heavy offense, so he's a guy who's good at the short to intermediate stuff, but actually does have quite a deceptive deep ball in his sleeve, and this is one who could possibly make a training camp next year. He's a name to watch out for anyhow. You don't get that much productivity at college level, at any level, if you're not at least got a little bit of skill about you. You've got Jawan Pass. He's the Prairie View A&M quarterback. He's 6'4", 228 pounds. Now, this was quite of a sad one for him, actually. He was a former 4-star prospect, and he played for the Louisville Cardinals. Now, he was a 1-year starter there before he got injured. And unfortunately for him, whilst he was injured, it was a significant one. One Malik Cunningham arrived in his absence. And if you've watched this show this year, we mention Malik Cunningham most weeks because Louisville definitely end up in shootouts. And Malik Cunningham's done really well there in his absence. And unfortunately, it meant he had to transfer away. So he made his way down to Prairie View. He threw last year. He had 2,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, 12 interceptions, 4 rush touchdowns in one season. He does fit the mold of sort of the Louisville quarterback type. He does have rushing ability. He's really good in the pocket, and he does like to launch the ball down. And it was a shame for him. So hopefully he might get a little look in as well, and also show his injury issues behind him. The last guy, Ladarius Skelton from Southern, he's had really inconsistent play time and lost his starting job after one game this year, so I'm not really expecting to see much from him. But yeah, Jawan Pass is a sad one, isn't it? You know, he could have really flourished in that Louisville offense, but it's just a shame of injury at the wrong time. Next man up, and the next man up happened to be pretty good.
Yeah, unfortunately, no one's going to in-seat Malik Cunningham anytime soon. Even though the Cardinals aren't good and their head coach is on the hot seat, it's not because of him, because he's a fantastic dynamic running quarterback. So that was just unfortunate timing, and then he had to go somewhere else to try resurrect his career, unfortunately.
Yeah, it is a shame, but you'll get a chance to see all these guys during the combine, so hopefully they can put up some good numbers and start off a good run to the draft where, there's like some of these guys could get interest, especially when it comes to camps afterwards. You might see some of these names, but Akil Glass for sure, it's going to be really interesting. If he does well, expect to hear his name called during the actual draft itself. Moving on to the running backs. So we've got a good little mix of running backs in here. So the running backs we've got are Ezra Gray from Alabama State, Keyshawn Williams from Arkansas Pine Bluff, Kingston Davis from Miles, Jermaine Martin from North Carolina A&T, and then we've got Jeff Proctor from Texas Southern. The one that really stood out to me straight away here is Ezra Gray. He's the Alabama State running back. Now he's only 5'7" and 184 pounds, and instantly you think that's quite small, he might not make it. But this guy has some really good production levels over the years. Sometimes these small guys, they find a way to make it work. They have to work harder, trade harder, they have to find ways to adapt here, and he does a little bit of everything. He's a runner, a receiver, and a kick returner. So he has 1,800 rushing yards in his collegiate career. He's got 250 receiving yards, and he's also got 1,403 yards as a kick returner. He's got plenty of speed, and the first thing he uses, because of his size, he attacks the perimeter, and he attacks the perimeter hard. He can get out quicker than anybody, make the space there, get past the line of scrimmage, avoiding all the big guys there. But then when he's through, he's actually got this really great cut ability that he deploys where he can make guys, if he can get guys in a one-on-one situation, he can cut, make them miss in open field, and then off he goes to the house. Hence why he's had such good production there. So he's found a way to, make his size not an issue, the way he plays, and he's done really well whilst he's been there. And I mean, on the field he's done well. Off the field, he's a very academically gifted guy, and he just gives off an aura. I've watched a few interviews with him, and he gives off the aura of being a really good culture guy. He works really hard. He knows his limitations, but he plays hard. You're not a good runner, a receiver, and a kick returner if you can't play the game. I mean, I don't know if you've seen anything of him, but I absolutely love this guy. I'm really intrigued to see how he does this weekend.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of him. I agree that over most of the backs, he offers something in every phase. Now, that's a back I've looked at that doesn't offer that ability to return the ball. So someone that's got that explosion, because once these small school kids get to the league, you've got to meet your name on special teams. I feel like he's someone that could excel there before he starts getting touches. Like Craig Reynolds himself, like say, he was no secret that you've got to work your way up. I believe also the receiving game. As you mentioned, he's very compact, but I think we've seen in this day and age that size really doesn't matter. There are some very small backs in the NFL. Like say, we only have to look at our own, likes of Swift. You've got likes of Mike Davis, who's chunky but short. So there's all very different kind of builds nowadays in the league. So I think he's someone that has got a lot of experience, and it could work out really well, because I think he is someone that you'll look at his 40, you'll look at his cone drill time, but then you also might look at if they do a bench press. Let's just see what kind of strengths he can do. Like say, because blocking is something where he may struggle if he ever gets to the next level.
Yeah, I feel like with a guy like him, you use him scheme specifically if you're going to do it, especially given we've got quite a deep running back room. But yeah, the way he attacks the perimeter and gets there just by sheer force of speed, I really love him, and I'm going to keep a good eye out for him. And like I say, he interviews really well as well. He just gives off all the right vibes. The other sort of main guy in this group of running backs is the North Carolina A&T running back, Jermaine Martin. He's 5'10", 210 pounds, a little bit bigger. Coming into this season, he was the number 2 ranked HCBU prospect to look for coming into this season. He had an amazing 29 season. Obviously, none of them played 2020 because of COVID. He rushed for 1,446 yards and 23 touchdowns, an average of 8.3 yards per carry. He had a hell of a year. But But this year he struggled a little bit more, and I don't know really what this does to him. His 2021 season, he had just 17 less carries than what he did in 2019, but he only managed 522 yards. It's a full 900 less than what he did before, and 4 touchdowns, and he only went at 3.9 yards per carry. Now, as I say, he's a bit of a bigger back. His balance is really good. He works primarily out of the shotgun. He's very good at finding gaps in the line. And he can also go outside when he needs to because he does have deceptively good speed for a guy his size. But he's another one, and you look at him. I like watching the tape of him, but that's a huge drop in production, and you have to be a little bit worried about that.
It is because the drop in production and the lack of carries don't correlate. He's only touched the ball a handful of less times, but he's got barely a third of the yards. So his average, let's say, it drops from 8.3 to less than 4. So he was much more affected. Like I said, I don't know if that was down to the offensive line or down to him, but everything drops, even though he takes a similar amount of touches every year. So that is something to look at. As a receiver as well, not really a threat. He only got about 100 yards receiving this year, so he's not much of a weapon out of the backfield. So he seems like one of those guys that he's a bit one-dimensional. He's a hit the hole, or he's a cut, turn upfield, north and south kind of back. Hits the hole when he goes, which is great at most levels. But to be one of these small school guys, you've got to be able to do something a little bit different and offer something a bit more as well.
Yeah, definitely. It's like Gray does. Gray gives special teams straight away. He gets you both facets of the game that you want to. You can work with that, but when you're just a purebred runner like he is, you do need to produce, and he didn't produce very much this year, which is a shame. But again, a combine gives you a chance to show off your athletic ability, and he will get a chance at a pro day to show what he can do. So if you're looking at the running backs, he's probably the second guy behind Ezra Gray to have a look for. Now, I know you like your Last Chance U. You love to watch these and see what some of the guys are on there, and you might, and if any of you listening watch it as well, and you've watched it religiously, you might know this next guy because he was on season 3 of Last Chance U, I believe, and that is the running back Kingston Davis from Miles. He's Yeah, it's a really sad story again for him. Since 2016, his production is 105 yards and 2 touchdowns. That is it. He started with the Michigan Wolverines, got a lot of offers from a lot of big colleges, but he had an injury to start off with, and then he was sort of kicked off the depth chart when he came back and he had to leave. So he went down to JUCO to play for Independence, which is when I believe Last Chance U was filmed. He was there. But he had a lot of ball handling issues there, a lot of fumbling, wasn't able to keep hold of it. And also the show himself, it showed him in a very bad light, actually. And he says that affected the way, he was able to play. After that, shortly, he moved to the University of Alabama, Birmingham, but he got just 22 carries before he got done for student misconduct. He got suspended, removed from the roster, and then he got done up on more violence charges a month later. And as far as I can see, he's not played since 2018. But I know you like your Last Chance U. Do you remember him, perchance?
I do, unfortunately, yeah. If I remember rightly, he was a kid that was getting yelled at a lot. Like I say, he didn't have the most productive time. To be fair, that show doesn't paint anyone in a good light. You can only name a handful of guys that actually had success. A lot of guys got offers. A lot of guys went to like Div 1 and Div 2 schools, but a lot of them academically didn't make it. They didn't get touches, or in this case, like I say, got suspensions or dropped out. Like I say, all of that really works against him in his favor. Like I say, the lack of ball touches, the lack of ball security. So this kid has got a mountain already to win people over more than anyone at his combine, really, because a lot of people have seen firsthand what he's like to coach. That series in particular, third series, things did not go well. So you could say that's down to the coaching, but I don't know how he's going to need a miracle. He's going to have to put up some big numbers because the play doesn't really reflect how well he's going to do. So no, it's good for him to get a chance, but it sounds like he's got a lot of skeletons in a big closet.
Yeah, it is a shame. And I mean, he's not the only one out of this group who's not really played and has got to do a lot here. Out of the remaining guys I've not mentioned, Keyshawn Williams, the Arkansas Pine Bluff running back, he hasn't played since 2019, obviously missed 2020 due to COVID, and he's missed this entire season due to an unspecified injury. However, his 29 tape I did really like, actually. There's a guy who can make his way through traffic in the middle of a scrum really, really easy. And I was actually quite impressed by the way he was able to do that. But outside of that, it's kind of a mystery. He's not played in so long. I don't really know what to expect. And then Jeff Proctor, the Texas Southern guy, he's had 157 career carries for 583 yards and 3 touchdowns. I could not find anything else about him outside of that. I tried, but some of these guys are so obscure, it's impossible. So we'll move it on. The wide receiver and singular tight end room, there's a lot of guys here, so I'm maybe just going to mention some of the ones who we think could make an impression here. So we've got D. Anderson from Alabama A&M, Trey Gross from Delaware State, Kwana Colley from Delaware State, Josh Wilkes from Arkansas Pine Bluff, Shamar Bridges from Fort Valley State, Keith Corbin from Jackson State, Rob Hunt from North Carolina A&T, Corey Banks from North Carolina A&T, Jonathan Giles from Texas Southern, Marquise McLean from Southern, and Will Vereen from South Carolina State. Now, D. Anderson's the guy I quite liked in this. He's the only tight end in this group. Well, he's been a wide receiver all his career at Alabama A&M, but he's projected to be a tight end at the next level. He spent 4 years at LSU. He's missed some time there, partly due to injury, and he missed the season through suspension through a conditioning issue, but seems a long time for a conditioning issue, but couldn't find anything else other than that. He transferred to Oklahoma State for a year, but had just one catch in 2020. So he made his way down to Alabama A&M, but under Akil Glass, he's found a little bit of redemption there. He got 33 receptions for pretty much 500 yards and 12 touchdowns this year at 15 yards per catch. And watching the highlights of Alabama A&M, which I was quite impressed with some of the grabs he made there. He seems to have had a very tough first few years there, but in his last, he's brought it back a little bit. Have you seen much of him at all? I did quite like him. I know he's had a lot of issues in the past, but had a good year this year.
Yeah, I think that is probably a production of the good quarterback player. He's been one of those people that have benefited from having Akil Glass there. He's looked at him and he's become quite a good safety blanket and an outlet for him. As you mentioned, he's a bit betwixt in between. Is he big enough to be a tight end? Can he block? Probably not. But could he make a successful career as a wide receiver? I don't see why not. Like I say, he's got a reasonably good tree. Like I say, if he flexes out from working off the end of the line, there's room for him to improve on that, I'd say. He'll expand on what he's asked to do. So it'd probably be best for him. But if he's able to learn how to block, I think he'll have a possibly good chance as a tight end 3 or 4. He's someone that could very find his way in a practice squad. So Alabama A&M are probably the highlight of all the teams that actually send players here. They're certainly one of the most well-known teams. Like I say, they've had a good year, but I found a guy, like I say, these receivers, there wasn't much to go on, but Marquise McLean is someone that could have a look at. 6'2", 224, so that makes him pretty much identical to Allen Robinson. He's one of the only receivers that has got, I'd say, the prototypical size that you want to look for. He was on without being, like I say, in the SWAC, he was on a bad Southern team that only went 4-7, but he did have 413 yards and 4 touchdowns this year of 30 catches. Has spent 2 years at Auburn, 2 years here. So he's certainly experienced. Also got 71 yards and 2 kickoffs, which means he's also got the ability to play on special teams and be a returner. So I think he's someone that could have a good workout, and he's one of the more productive receivers this year on a team that really struggled. So he's someone I think I'd like to have a look at. He's certainly an outside guy at that size and that build.
Yeah, he was one of the names I was not able to get round to, but if he's there and he's got the opportunity, then let's see what he can do. The guy I singled out actually was Trey Gross. He is the Delaware State wide receiver. He's 6'4", 210 pounds. He's a big guy. He's a 4-year starter there. He's got 1,709 yards and 22 touchdowns in the receiving game, but he's also quite a good special teamer as well. He's got multiple blocked punts on there on special teams. He's got this real knack to be able to get at a punter before he's able to get it away. But the thing that really stood out for me on the tape I watched with him is he is a red zone threat and a half. Obviously, he's got a big body, 6'4", he's a big guy, and he can win it either a mixture of ways. Either he'll use his frame to get leverage on you, get that little bit of separation that you need just to be able to get the catch, or he'll go up and contest it in the air, and 99 times out of 100, from what I was seeing, he'll beat you to it. So he's going to be a guy I'm watching out for very closely there in the receiver class. Was there anyone else who sort of stood out for you, or shall we move it on? It was not very easy to find some of these guys.
No, like say Josh Wilkes, like say he's got that good frame that he's had weight to, and he's one of the most experienced as well. He's had 4 whole years of catching passes, so I think that certainly helps in his. And it says taking kickoffs every year, so he's certainly someone that could benefit. I just think he needs to bulk up a bit. Arkansas, like say he was on. Well, they finished rock bottom, so it certainly didn't have to do much to stand out there on a 2-19. But he's certainly got. I'd say he's got what you're looking at for at the next level, because, like I say, he's taken touches in every phase of the game, really.
Yeah, that's it. We're sort of verging into territory in leagues here that we don't often dip into, so we can really only go on the players' production. I don't know how much teams are affecting them and the way they play here, but as far as the wide receivers go, Trey Gross, Marquise McLean, those are the 2 names to look out for at the Combine this weekend, and Dee Anderson as well, if you're looking for a possible tight end option there. We'll move it on. So the offensive line, there's not many of the guys in the rest of the classes here. So there's 4 offensive linemen who are going. You've got Cameron Durley, he's a right tackle from Tennessee State. Zachary Wilcox, an offensive tackle from Virginia State. Keenan Forbes, an offensive guard for Florida A&M, and Jamal Savage from Bethune-Cookman, if I've pronounced that correctly. And the one who stood out by a mile in front of all these, and one who I actually want to try and find some tape on, actually, because I want to see a lot more of him. Been very impressed with what I've seen so far, is Keenan Forbes. He's the offensive guard, as I say, from Florida A&M. He's 6'2", 330 pounds. This is, from everything that I've seen about them, an elite offensive line there. He's got all sorts of awards. This year, he was in the All-SWAC first team. They've had an elite season there. He had 92 knockdowns in the season. That is a lot of pancake D linemen, and he only gave up 1 sack on the entire season. The O-line there, it was the best in the league in terms of giving up sacks on the quarterback. They don't give up very many at all. And they had the leading rusher in the league as well. So in the run game, they were creating plenty of opportunity for him to get going. And in the last 2 years, because they've just changed conference, they were in the MEAC before, the Mid-East Athletic Conference, I think it is. He was 2-time All-MEAC first team, so he's basically made the first team in his last 3 years consecutively. The O-line in both those seasons, they played 11 games both seasons. He only gave up 8 sacks both seasons, and I've watched some of him, and this guy is violent. He is, really hard to bring down if you're a defensive lineman. And actually, we could maybe do with a guy like this if he shows out well in the Combine. I don't know about you, if you've had a chance to look or not.
I did, yeah. Florida A&M, they have got a few prospects that they could send to the draft. Like I said, they've got their star safety. This guy, I like him because he's a little bit undersized, but with that, it brings extra aggression. Because like I say, for a guard, he is small. He's going to be small at the next level. Barely 6'3". He's only about 330 pounds. So like I say, he's a bit more stout. He's got a very wide base, which is able to get pancakes, because you can't really get under a guy that's only 6'3". He doesn't play high. He plays really low, so he's got a good center of gravity about him. So once he gets hands on you, he's got that leverage, like I say. So he's able to finish players off. So I think he's going to be one of the best guys to watch. He makes a fit as a natural guard, like I say, with that little bit lack of height, like I say. And if he's got the mobility and aggression, he's someone you could see pulling, like how we've just seen Trent Williams. Like I say, he's got that ability to have a pancake. You'd be able to pull him across the line, trap a running back with him. I think he'll be able to play a few positions. He'll be quite versatile on the offensive line.
Yeah, absolutely. I just remember started watching the tape. I was like, I like what I see here. And for a guy who's so consistently got into some of the best teams in the league, he's made the all teams for the last 3 years. You've got to have something about you there. It's got to be very interesting to see how he does at this combine. Outside of that, the other guy I took notes on was Cameron Durley. He is the right tackle at Tennessee State. He's 6'6", 315 pounds. He is a big guy indeed. The last things I can get on them was from 2019, because obviously they didn't play 2020. The O-line that year managed to help Tennessee State average 400 yards of offense per game. They were second least sacks in the Ohio Valley Conference, I believe it is, and he's made the Ohio Valley Conference first team twice. I need to see a little bit more on him, but the little I have seen on him, again, he looks pretty good. I don't know if you had a chance to see any more of these guys, but any other notes you want to put in there?
Jamal Savage, I believe he's been a starter there between right and left tackle at Bethune-Cookman. I think he enrolled in 2017. So he's one of the most experienced guys there. And I've seen here, looking at a website, they expect he could possibly run a 5.32 at 6'6" and 320 pounds. That means he can shift. If it's projected between anywhere 5.32 and a 5.5, that is very fast for a behemoth of a lineman. So if he's got that deceptive quickness, he could be certainly someone that you'll see gets that. So we're going to be looking how fast he moves this week, because he's got twinkle toes for such big size. So that brings a lot of potential to work with there at the next level.
Yeah, definitely. There's only 4 guys here, but there are a few little peaks of interest, let's say. And keeping an eye, see how some of these guys do, because if they can athletically back up what they've been doing on the pitch, then there are maybe some guys who are going to be able to draw some interest, especially, in the undrafted free agent market, maybe, or later on in the draft. You never know. It could potentially be some really good value there. So keep an eye on the offensive lineman, but Keenan Forbes, he's a name really to watch out for. I've got a lot of high hopes there for him. Moving on, we've gone to the defensive line. Again, only 4 guys here, but there is one real standout here I'm looking forward to seeing. So we've got Keyshawn James from Fayetteville State, James Fagan from Hampton, Javon Frazier from Virginia State, and Chris Myers from Norfolk State. Now, the guy I'm going to start with straight out the vote, because, he's just got so much production here at college level. This is Keyshawn James from Fayetteville State. He's 6'3", 218 pounds. He's had a ridiculously good 2021, got 32 solo tackles, 38 assisted tackles, 23 and a half tackles for loss, 10 and a half sacks, 4 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery, and 7 quarterback hits in 4 years at Fayetteville. His numbers are mad. So he's got 104 solo tackles, 124 assisted tackles, 60 and a half tackles for loss, totaling nearly 330 yards lost, 29 and a half sacks, 230 yards lost. He's got 1 pass defended, 11 forced fumbles. This guy is a forced fumbling machine, 2 fumble recoveries, and a pass block there as well. I mean, I've seen a little bit of this guy, again, the tape I've managed to see, and he does everything. This guy's like a little buzzsaw on the D-line, but Christ almighty, he will set a tent in your backfield and he will not leave. It is very hard to get rid of him.
Yeah, I've seen him. Like he's fast, he's good off the edge. Like I say, he's able to beat the offensive lineman, get around guards down the outside, or if he needs to, use his handwork. So he's someone that is able to get to running backs, finish off plays. You expect to be great getting the quarterback, bringing them down. Primarily someone he's probably put on like a one technique off the edge, who's able to get into the opposing backfield as fast as possible, but been very productive. A lot of these guys have been very productive, actually.
Is there anyone else out of the other 3 who sort of stood out for you there? He was the one I really took notes on, because I'd gone through so much by this time. I was struggling, but are there any of the others who stand out? Because, I mean, Keyshawn James, yeah, he looks mental. I've got to watch him very closely. Chris
Myers, he's defensive lineman for Norfolk State Spartans, 6'6" and 245. So he is a natural edge rusher. He has got that one technique where he'll stand fairly high, put a hand down. But this year, he has 21 total tackles, 7.5 tackles for loss, 5.5 sacks, 4 quarterback hits. So he's had a very productive year. Like I say, he's started nearly every game for the Spartans, and he's been there now since 2019. So he's got 15 career sacks. He's got 2 passes defended, a fumble recovered, 17 and a half tackles for loss. And he's only played 2 years. He missed 2020 with COVID. So if you look at him as a pass rusher on situational downs at 6'6", he has got some speed, and he's got a motor for someone that's really long and thin, like I say. But I think you could work him on the inside of the interior line as well. Like I say, he's got that size where he's able to swallow up backs. So he'll be able to play in a multitude of positions at current line, but I'd like him on the outside. He looks like someone that's able to force getting held and also able to get into the backfield. So he's had 2 very good years at Norfolk State.
Yeah, again, so just like the offensive line, there's just 2 guys there, so really maybe stand out a bit more to you. And, you know, again, if these guys can go and have a good combine this weekend, I really want to try and see a bit more of them. So I'm hopefully going to be able to see some of what they do there. But yeah, I agree. 2 good shouts there for guys that you really want to keep an eye out for. Moving on, this was the group I struggled with the most. So we got the linebackers next. So we have Solomon Wise from Alcorn State. We have Ontario Johnson from Bethune-Cookman. Is it Bethune? Bethune-Cookman. Jerry Garner from Mississippi Valley State, and Chad Gilchrist from South Carolina State. Now, there was very little I could find here that really interested me per se. Chad Gilchrist, he has 12 and a half tackles for loss in his last 2 seasons, couple of sacks in there as well. Does show a little bit of promise, but outside of that, I didn't see a lot that really got me going here.
Jerry Garner this year, Mississippi Valley State, 6 quarterback hits, 35 tackles, 8 tackles for loss and 3 sacks just this season. And he's 6'2", 240, so he's got the decent size to potentially be an outside linebacker, or if he could shift inside. But he's had a nice productive 2021. He also got another 2 tackles for loss and a sack back in 2017. There's a gap of a few years, and I don't know why, and that worries me. So you could 2020, but I'm not sure what he was doing in 2018 or 2019. So that gives me a gap not to work with. But off this year, I think he's someone that could probably work out pretty well.
Yeah, that is a long time, isn't it, actually? Oh, I'll have to try and find out what that's about. Anyhow, yeah, that is the linebacker group. So we'll see. Maybe something to work with there. We'll end it off with the defensive backs. So we've got Will Adams from Virginia State, Corey Rahman from Tennessee State, Zafir Kelly from South Carolina State, Antoine Collier from Florida A&M, Elvin De La Rosa from Fayetteville State, and Juwan Taylor from Alcorn State. Who sticks out for you straight away out of those?
Will Adams, Virginia State. Like I say, he looks like he's a potential prospect there. Now, I'm having a look at these. I can't tell necessarily who's a corner and who's a safety. I say a lot of them, it just says I've got them grouped as DS. So
I had the same. I think some of them are maybe a little bit. I'm pretty sure some of them play both positions. But Will Adams, I had as a corner. He was the one who also stood out for me as well. I did kind of like his. Yeah, I liked his play. I liked his coverage ability that he showed, which kind of intrigued me there. But outside of that, again, this was the last group because it was the last group out of the lot of them. This is one I was able to spend the least time on. But was there anyone else who? Sorry,
Will Anderson, he got 61 tackles this year. He got 1.5 tackles for loss. He got an interception for 12 yards. So he had an okay year this year. Like I say, he's 6'3", 200 pounds. So he's certainly one of the guys that looks the most. He's got that prototypical frame, I'd say. So he's someone that will probably get watched because of his size.
Yeah, I agree. I'll have to take a look at some more of these guys, but the combine's coming up soon. So if any of them send out ridiculously good numbers, we'll be able to have a little recap about what goes on next week. So that's everything for the HCBU combine. So we've been through also. I'll just recap some of the names. If you want to look for some of the guys this weekend, possibly who might come up on a radar or two, your quarterbacks, you've got Akil Glass, Felix Harper. Running back, you've got Ezra Gray and Jermaine Martin. Wide receivers, Trey Gross, Marquise McLean. Offensive line, Keenan Forbes. Keenan Forbes is a big one to watch out for, and Cam Durley. Defensive line, you've got Keyshawn James, Chris Myers. Linebackers, got Jerry Garner, possibly Chad Gilchrist. And your defensive backs, you're looking there at Will Adams. So yeah, hopefully that has given you a little bit more of an insight on the HCBU Combine. This took a lot of work to do, so I'm kind of glad we were able to put something good together for it. But moving on, we're going to get to the... Oh, go on.
Cornerback Elvin De La Rosa, career 161 tackles, 12 and a half tackles for loss, 2 sacks, 4 interceptions, 17 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries, and he scores touchdowns as well. He's also got 2 touchdowns. So actually, he's had a very productive corner, 6-foot cornerback.
So from
the best guy to watch.
So from Fayetteville State, that's where Keyshawn James comes from. We're going to have to look a little more at this Fayetteville State defense, because Keyshawn James is like the turnover machine with forced fumbles. Seems De La Rosa's the interception machine as well. They must have a really good defense there. Well, right. Well, keep a lookout for any defender that comes from Fayetteville State. That is the advice there. But anyhow, as I say, we'll move it on. That happens this coming Friday and Saturday. But after that, we get to the main crux of the Senior Bowl week, which is the main draft prospects who are going to be going forward there. We had a look at the Lions team offense last week, and now we're going to take a look at the defense. And I managed to get through most of these guys. Oh God, where are all my notes? Here we go. We can move it forward. So we're going to take a look. We're going to start off first with the inside defensive line, and potentially some really intriguing prospects here, let's say. I managed to nick the positional values of these. Thank you, Pride of Detroit. That's the only thing I ripped off for you for this, I do promise. So yeah, the inside defensive line. So we have Devontae Wyatt from Georgia, Fidarian Matisse from Alabama, Zachary Carter from Florida, Josh Pascal from Kentucky, John Ridgway from Arkansas, and Neil Farrell Jr. from LSU. So we'll go through these guys one by one. So we start off obviously with the Georgia guy, the Natty winner. He's Devontae Wyatt. So he is a 3-tech, he is labeled as. That is where you play on the outside of the guard on the defensive line. He is a 4-year veteran from Georgia. He's 6'3", 315 pounds. In his career, 49 solo tackles, 64 assisted, 12 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 3 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. May not sound like much for a 4-year career, but he's a guy who's slowly integrated his way into that Georgia defense. And 2021 was somewhat of a breakout for him, given that they went all the way to a natty. That defense was famous this year, especially that front 7 of which he was part of. So his 2021 season, 18 solo tackles, 21 assisted tackles, 7 tackles for loss, 2.5 sacks, a pass defended, 2 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. Now, in terms of the player himself, he is a really explosive guy. He can get off the mark quickly and overwhelm an O-lineman and cause damage in the backfield. That's sort of his bread and butter there. His technique and his pad level, they're both really good. And his movement skills, the way he sort of contorts his body around, makes him really difficult to block. However, he does have a really big issue when it comes to double teams. He struggles to anchor, plant his feet properly, and double teams invariably render him null and void, especially when it comes to the running game in terms of levering him out the way. And it causes him to lose a lot of battles in there. But I mean, in terms of a guy who, when you get him one-on-one, you know, really going all out there trying to get to the backfield, he's a very dangerous guy, and he was part of one of the best defenses that college football's ever seen this season, and he requires a lot of respect.
Yeah, he's that number one, I think, interior defensive lineman. He was a huge part in the likes of getting to that run, because I saw multiple games where if they left him on single coverage, if he was up against like a inside of a tackler on top of a guard or over the center, he has got the ability to swallow running backs up. He is able to burst through that line if he's left one-on-one and bring up. He had a finishing. He stood up to Brian Robinson Jr. very well in that championship. When they were trying to run up the middle, trying to run through them between the tackles, he was someone that you'd hear a lot of his name calling Wyatt. I'd say he is someone that when he's heads up on a guy, he has got good leverage. You mentioned he's got that low shoulder pad level. I'd say he only struggles when he's got either side above him because they're able to get underneath him and then they can dictate which side of the play he's going to when they get either side of him underneath. So once he stays low, but he keeps the head up, it's really hard to beat him. Great center of gravity, and he's got that really nice stout body frame as well underneath. So he's the best 3-tech, I'd say, no doubt.
Yeah, I agree. I think there's a lot to like about him there. And I guess if you're playing him with someone on that interior who does eat up double teams very well, I'm thinking of our own nose tackle, Aleem, if it comes to ours, who eats up those double blocks and is able to get him one-on-one, then he's going to have a lot of success potentially at the next level really soon. I know he's expected to get his name called very quickly in day 2. Maybe an outside chance of day 1, depending on how CMC fit there, but he's certainly going to be very well thought of when it comes to the draft very quickly. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to see him play. I think Dan Campbell might like him a lot, the effort and the intensity he brings there. I mean, to be honest, I do like our IDL class. Out of some of these ones that we've been given for the defense, we've been given some rotten cores later on. Moving on, so we've got Fidarian Matisse. He's from Alabama. He's classified as a 4I, which I believe is playing on the inside shoulder of the tackle. So he plays roughly there on the defensive line. So like Wyatt, he's another guy who's been around for 4 years. He's integrated himself into the team, and this has been like his breakout year where a lot of his production has come. So his career all told, 53 solo tackles, 76 assisted, 16 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, 5 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. Now, it may not sound like a lot, but it's 2021. This is where a lot of his production came. 20 solo tackles, 33 assisted, 10.5 tackles for loss, 9 sacks, 2 passes defended, 1 forced fumble, 2 fumble recoveries. Now, when you think of Alabama and their inside defensive line factory, there's nothing really that's any better in college football. So in the last 6 drafts, they've produced 8 guys on the inside defensive line who have gone in the top 2 rounds. They know how to make a good interior defensive lineman. So Matisse himself, he's got a real stout frame. He's got elite length, which is, his sort of bread and butter. And when you mix that with the power he has there, he can displace blockers easily with the length he possesses because he can always get to them first. But if he can't go through the inside, he can also attack the outside because he does play quite far across the line. So he does have a surprising amount of bend on him. His athleticism is top notch, which means he can get to the edge, get round, and still be able to get after the quarterback there. The only thing that he really struggles with, well, there are a few little issues with him. He lacks elite speed in pursuit. So if a pocket breaks down and a quarterback scrambles, don't expect him to go running after because that is not what he does. And then when it comes to the run game, he does have some problems when it comes to disengaging to make the tackles. If you remember when I did the video last summer on Aleem McNeil, when saying of what makes him such a good run stopper, it's his ability to disengage out of tackles and be able to go and get runners. It's a really big issue, and it's something that he does need to work on. And also he's got stamina issues. He has a lot of time that he spends off the field when he's not on it. He should probably be on it a little longer. It seems he takes a little longer to rest up. But when he's on there, he's got a lot of weapons at his disposal. He can hurt you in a lot of different ways.
Yeah, this guy, like I say, he's got length in spades. He looks like a guy that probably does a bit of yoga because, like I say, he's got that good bend. He's able to rip. He's able to do swim moves. He's able to just breeze past guys on the outside. If he isn't able to force his way through the inside, like I say, he's someone that will shift along the inside of the line, work his way out as a designated pass rusher. On the downs where they need to maximize him the most, as you mentioned, I don't know, has he got the engine to be an every down player? That's where we'll see. Like the run heavy teams, like I say, he won't set the edge. He will get clamped in. If you can neutralize him, I imagine, by bringing in, going tight end heavy set. Like I say, he may struggle to disengage a double team from a guard and a tight end. They may swallow him up there. So that's where we know he needs to work at the next level, stopping the run and disengaging when someone gets 2 hands on him or gets underneath. I think maybe that's to do, like say, he's long, he's a big guy. Pad level, people get hands underneath him very easily and they can kind of dictate just how long he stays on the block. So there's certainly potential there. I think he's someone that has been elevated from the company around him this year. Like I say, he knows he's had like Will Anderson coming up the rear of him. So he's definitely a project, but he's got the athleticism there. He's also got the finishing stability, power once he does get into the backfield, those 10.5 tackles for loss. So he can be a guy that can be really effective if he's able to neutralize the offensive lineman.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it there. Some of the guys he's worked with this year, you wonder how much is a result of that as well. So if he can come out and have a good Senior Bowl, still be able to get some of this level of production he's put on there, then you have to think, oh, hang on, maybe it wasn't the people around him, it is him himself. But there's certainly a lot of good traits there that you can work with. There are just some little bits of issues you need to work on, and hopefully that stamina is going to show, and he's going to be able to get a lot of playing time there. Moving on. A couple of more hybrid-y type guys now. The second one I particularly like. First one is Zachary Carter from Florida. He has been a 4-year vet there. So he's a 4i/5 tech. So he plays around the tackles, again, sort of on the edge. He's 6'4", 285 pounds. His career, 39 solo tackles, 63 assisted, 26 tackles for loss, 17 sacks, 8 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, and a fumble recovery, which he took for a touchdown. 2021 has been quite productive. He got 11.5 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, 2 passes defended, a forced fumble, and 31 tackles in there. Now, unlike the first two, he's had multiple years of production at Florida, and especially on this year on a bad Florida side, he has still done really well. The thing that stands out about him compared to the other two, he's got quite a balanced skill set when it comes to playing against the pass and against the run. And that sort of translates because he's the same when it comes to his position. He's sort of part defensive end, part defensive tackle. He gives you a lot of versatility into what he can do, and the skill set sort of translates with that. So he's another guy. He's got really good length, which he uses to pass rush. He's able to keep blockers sort of at bay and be able to get around them there. He's good at taking on double teams. He's got sort of the strength of that defensive tackle in there, which helps him to do so. He's got good lateral ability, so he's able to change directions quick, changes angles of attack if he so needs to. So he's got a lot there going for him. But again, another few areas that we need to see if he's improving on as he comes here. So his first step's not great. There are a lot of examples of him on tape where he's getting to the quarterback just after they've thrown. He's arriving just a little too late, and that first step would help turn those near misses into sacks and quarterback hits. And he also needs to work on his diagnosing of plays. It comes up on tape, especially. He's susceptible to the RPO where he can't diagnose the ball carrier or know where it's going. He gets confused, and as a result, he gets a little lost on the play. But I mean, this guy's been doing it on a team for a few years now. Again, some issues, but a lot of potential to work with if harnessed right.
I think he's the one I want to see the most. He's the most intrigued by. I think for me, could be one of the standouts. And for me, it's the fact that 8 passes defended. Right, it's 2 a year, but that tells me he is one of those guys that understands his physical limitations. He's not, let's say, 6'4", 285. So he's one of the heavier dudes, I'd say, with the weight, but he knows when to give up on the block and just get his hands up. He has got a habit of always getting in the passing lane. Like, he knows when to throw a hand up or get a mitt on it. He will get these passes defended in a deflection, which tells me he's got a good IQ when he knows that they're either selling a fake or the quarterback doesn't have time. So if he's coming up and he knows he won't get there, he's going to do his best to try interfere or have some sort of effect on the play, which I think is really good. As you mentioned, where he struggles, he gets lost in traffic. Like I say, he sometimes can't diagnose if around PA, if it's a team that has multiple quarterbacks, a fake or a reverse. He's not going to get there. He won't scrape across quick enough. Like I say, the lateral speed isn't necessarily there for pursuit if he does get confused. I think he works probably best on the outside. I would probably put him as a pass rusher. Like I say, he's got the size. He's also got the strength. Like I say, big 2, 6'4", 290 frame. The sacks have gone up every year. His finishing ability, his techniques got better. It's the run game where he will maybe let himself down the most. Like I say, that's probably where he needs the biggest area. Diagnosing players quicker and being able to fill those holes if they do want to come through the tackles. But he's going to have to set the edge as well at the next level. He's a big guy. He's going to expect it to keep contained on the outside because he's got another bit of length as well. So that's where we'll see him make or break if he's able to defend against the run.
Yeah, I think it's the theme of these guys so far. There's a lot to like about them, but they're just little bits they need to work on. But I love the raw talent that a lot of these guys have here, and I'm to be honest, I'm looking forward to seeing most of them, most of this inside defensive line to see how they get on. But yeah, Carter is another one who could potentially do some great things here. But the guy I really want to see, he's the next one up, and you know what they say, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me. Well, the last time that I got really sort of into a guy from Kentucky who plays hard, plays violent, and, was hoping would be able to, curb it and become a better player, I believed in Logan Stenberg, and I appear to have been burned on that one. But this next guy, this is Josh Pascal. He's from Kentucky, just like Logan Stenberg was. Now, this guy is the sort of prototype hybrid guy. He is a 3-tech, a 5-tech, an edge. So he can basically play anywhere from the outside shoulder of the guard right out to sort of the 7-tech area here that he's used in. But Josh Pascal, yeah, I love this guy. 5-year guy from Kentucky, 6'3", 278 pounds. On his career, 62 solo tackles, 65 assisted, 35 and a half tackles for loss, 13 sacks, an interception, pass defended, 3 forced fumbles. His 2021's been decent. 52 tackles overall, 15 tackles for loss, 5 sacks, 1 forced fumble. This guy, out of all of these, he has the most elite natural power out of the lot of them, and he is probably as violent as they come. He's got one of the best get-offs of all these guys, and that get-off mixed with his explosion, it just allows him to do so much. He can blow through the tiniest of gaps that become available if an O-line's not lined up properly. He can blow away a lineman if he wants to create passing lanes for the guys behind him, sort of the blitzing linebackers. He can do that, or he can go through on his own. But if you line him up on the edge, he can straight up bull rush a tackle as well. He's got that sort of power about him. If he can get under the pads of a tackle, he will straight out bull rush him out the way and go after the quarterback. I love watching this guy, and his closing range in the pocket is surprisingly good for a defensive tackle. He's not going to be running to the edge after running backs, but if you give him a line of sight at a quarterback, he can close down so quickly on him. It is so deceptively good. But with this violent tendency, with this explosion comes problems. Now, for me, he has one of the problems that I don't like about Kayvon Thibodeau. He relies far too much on his power to win. And when a player does that, it comes at the expense of learning other techniques and counters, because he can win so often using his power moves that he's never really had to delve down into the bag of tricks, as it were. And at the next level, offensive lines are not going to cave in as easily as they do at the college level. And if I'm watching him this week, I do want to see that arsenal of pass rush moves increase a little bit more, because you're going to need it at the next level. You're going to need to learn your counters a bit better. You're going to need to learn, your swim moves, your spin moves, bring those on show to keep the O-lineman guessing, because sometimes a straight up power rush is not going to do it for you. And he doesn't have the elite bend that Thibodeau has, which kind of elevates him a little bit higher. And also with explosion, it means you can be too aggressive at times. You can overshoot your mark, overshoot your tackles, get your tackling angles wrong. But if you can harness that energy correctly and get the techniques right, to get the technical side of it right, you have a hell of a good player on your hands. And I see a hell of a good player here with him. I just love these guys. I think Dan Campbell's going to love this sort of attitude and energy and enthusiasm he brings, and we'll be able to harness it better before. But I mean, I love this guy. I think he's going to be great. And I'm looking forward to seeing him out of most of the players on this team for us.
I really like him. I would not have put him in with the interior defensive lineman. He's not an interior defensive lineman, I don't think. I don't think he will play that at the next level. I don't think he has the beef to hold up an interior, or he's going to struggle to come through in between a centre and a tackle or a guard. So I think he's going to move. He'll kick outside. As you mentioned, if he relies on the bull rush and that, he's going to get eaten pancaked a lot. He will get swallowed up by those big guys with big bellies. Like I say, the tackles at next level will chew him up for breakfast. If he doesn't slow it down a bit, work on technique a bit more. I expect him, as you say, to, if he gets through a hole in a straight line, can he change direction quick enough? If he overshoots the market, I think we'll have that potential problem we've seen at Lions this year, where someone gets through and they go past the quarterback and then they have to turn or try come back. Like, is he got that ability to flip his hips and change direction quick enough? Because runs a bit like a rhino, fantastic in a straight line. He's got that beef and that broad. Same as Thibodeau, but if he overshoots it, it takes the wrong angle. I want to be able to see him recover and still get the end product. So as a pure pass rush, as the most explosiveness, he's probably one of the best guys there. I would have put him with the edges, although I think he's going to be the most explosive in the pass rush game. Like I say, for him, it's going to be discipline and how quickly he can slow the game down, because his bag of tricks currently won't work at the next level unless he learns how to use his hands. He doesn't use the hands. He doesn't use the arms. He doesn't break the shoulders. Like I say, he wants to get off and he wants to go around the outside or go through the inside. But he will get taken to school probably a few times, but he'll learn eventually, I think.
Exactly. And for me, I'd rather be handing away a day 2 pick for a guy like Josh Pascal than handing over the number 2 overall pick for Capon. I just can't help it. I just think you need a lot more than a bull rush and power at the next level. But like I say, I'd rather develop it with a day 2 pick. That's just my opinion, but I love him, and that just must have something for Kentucky, like Trenchman on the O-line and the D-line. I just seem to like the way they play. So, hey, who's the next one going to be? We'll finish it off the inside defensive line. So we're finishing off with a couple of nose tackles, or, well, one could be a nose tackle. I don't know. He's played somewhere else all his career. But the first one is John Ridgway III from Arkansas. He's only been there a year. He played previously 4 years at Illinois State in the FCS before getting a move up to the SEC. And he's made the most of his move. He's done quite well this year. Don't sleep on anyone in the draft from this Arkansas team. They had one of the hardest strengths of schedule this season, and we mentioned it on one of our very first podcasts that we did. And that Arkansas team did a lot better than people expected it to this year, because they've got some damn good players on there. So this guy, he's 6'6", 320 pounds. He is your big, beefy nose tackle build type. So as I say, he spent 4 years in the FCS, but this year in 2021, he got 11 solo tackles, 28 assisted tackles, 4 tackles for loss. Also managed a few sacks as well, so showed a little bit in the pass rushing game. So yeah, looking at the tape for him, he led the D-line in tackles this year for Arkansas, and I saw the ability for him to clog the run lanes and collapse the pocket. And he's got special teams ability. So he works both field goal units and he works on the punt return team as well. Big thing about this guy is his height. So this works both ways for him. So obviously his height when he's on the line of scrimmage, it allows him to hit first out an offensive lineman. He's 6'6", he's huge, he's got great length. So he can set the tone of the play if he so wishes to. He's able to get on top of a lineman and be able to, as I say, collapse the pocket, create some rushing lanes there. And you can see times when he is able to do this well. But on the flip side, if he comes up against a guy who's just a little bit better than he is, they can get under his pads. And when they do get under his pads, it's not pretty viewing at all. They can get under there, they can lever him out the way, and he does struggle to have an impact in the run game there. And what he also doesn't have is the lower body strength to be able to recover from that. He can't counter, and he really struggles to get off these blocks when the O-linemen get the better of him. I mean, this guy is... I saw he's sort of a round 4 project area, and I would agree with, but I don't really think we need a nose tackle this year, but it's going to be interesting to see him play. You always like to see the big guys like that and the impact they can have, but if he's going to stand out, he really needs to stand out in the run game. Yeah,
this guy needs to, he needs to, like I said, beef up the lower body. He needs to make the base a bit sturdier, because 6'6", once the ball is snapped, if he gets up too high and a center is able to get underneath his pads, well, it's going to be like cow tipping. Like say, he'll lose his balance, and like say, he'll roll over. Like say, that is where he will really struggle, because being that high, the center of gravity will totally change when someone gets under the pad level. So he needs to be someone that can stay as low as possible. The height will work against him. Like say, if you get a center that is small but compact and explosive, like say, once they get underneath him, they will be able to destabilize him And if they can shift him to either side, there may be a hole through the middle. So, but on the plus side, if they're not able to shift him, he's got a big old arms. Like I say, it will take a lot for him to not swallow up a guy that wants to run through the middle. So if he stays low and he gets the arms out wide, like I say, they'll have a hard time running through him. If they get underneath him and they're able to get hands under his pads, or if someone engages him and then a double team comes in, you will wipe him out from the side. His ability to change direction, like I say, will not be easy because built like a bit of a lamppost.
Exactly. You know, if you're looking at John Ridgway's prospect, you've got to watch him in his run game and see how he does against that. If he does well, then, you know, that's great. That's where he needs to improve. So we'll see with that. And then ending off the IDL, we've got Neil Farrell Jr. from LSU. Now, this was weird. He's not actually played DT until this year. He's been at LSU for 5 years. He's 6'4", 320 pounds, 54 solo tackles, 89 assisted, 22 tackles for loss, 7.5 sacks, 4 passes defended and a forced fumble in his career. His 2021, he got 45 tackles all told, 9.5 tackles for loss, 2 sacks, a couple of passes defended. Now, as I say, he spent 4 years at defensive end before they moved him to defensive tackle this year. And I actually went and had a look, and on LSU Wire and places like that, they said he projected best as a nose tackle at the next level. So I'm inclined to believe what they say. But so this is a guy who's come into defensive tackle, but he's bringing sort of edge quality pass rush here with him. He's quite speedy. He's quite agile, you know, certainly more than he appears, because again, he's a really big guy. But out of all the players on this inside defensive line, he's the one who deals with double teams the best. He feasts on them for breakfast, really. He's got a great first step. He's got a powerful lower body, unlike Ridgway. So even if 2 guys do come onto him, he sets himself really well. He can disengage there. He can take up that attention while other guys get through to the quarterback. And he's also a really good tackler. I don't know why, but it just showed out to me that he tackles incredibly well. And, you know, especially on the lines, we really want to value players like that going forward. Like a couple of the others, though, his trouble, he's not fast enough to get to the quarterback to get sacks often, and his athleticism is slightly average there. And of course, the big thing for a team taking him on is where do they play him? He's played edge for 4 years and now he's tackle. So where do you play him? It could be a bit of a thing for him if teams don't know where he might slide. But intriguing, but you don't know where to play him.
No, he's got experience at multiple positions. Like say, which front is he best in? It sounds like you'd probably want to put him in a 4-front, maybe either side of another nose tackle. Like say, if he's not going to be the strongest guy to win heads up, like say, you don't really want him getting double teamed. I'd expect him to be someone, like say, the first step's good. So he's going to be great once the ball is snapped. If he's able to predict when the ball is snapped, like say, and he uses that first step, I think he could be pretty good at trying to get through the hole. Like say, if he's got single coverage, I think he's got that, obviously the tackle as well. So if anyone does come through the middle, like you say, I'd like to think that it's not going to get any further. They won't get to the next level, but he's going to be able to swallow them up and finish the plays. So it could be a guy out there could get tackles for loss. Absolute pure speed, like you say, if things do break down, like say, if he gets through the hole, the pursuit definitely won't be there. Like you say, he ain't going to be chasing anyone down or towards the sideline. So the motors are going to struggle. So there's things to work with, but when you don't really pigeon slot into a hole, or you don't really know what it is, it's really hard to see a guy. They're probably going to have to work him out all over the line to see who works best. May kick him back outside at the next level. You never know.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see where they play him in the Senior Bowl. They'll be very closely eyeing up where he plays and how he does. That's one of the more positional areas to look for on our defensive line. We'll move it on anyhow. So that's all the defensive line done. So now we're going to look at the edge rushers, and we have a varied group of edge rushers in here. So we got Jermaine Johnson II from Florida State. We've heard his name enough times over this year for one reason. We got Cameron Thomas from San Diego State. We got Kingsley Enagbare from South Carolina, Amare Barno from Virginia Tech, D'Angelo Malone from Western Kentucky, and Michael Clemens from Texas A&M. So as usual, we will go through all these, and we'll start with Jermaine Johnson II. He's pretty decent. Now, after that full in-depth review of Jermaine Johnson there, we'll move it on and we'll go on to Cameron Thomas of San Diego State. And now, I mean, to be honest, this guy, I've not really even looked at him before, but a lot of guys are saying that this is one of the best kept secrets in the draft, and having sat down and watched some of his tape today, good God, I do agree. So Cameron Thomas, he is a 3-year guy from San Diego State. He is 6'5", 270 pounds. His career, 71 solo tackles, 84 assisted, 39 tackles for loss, 20 sacks, 2 passes defended, and 1 forced fumble. And his 2021, it's been pretty decent. 71 total tackles, 20.5 tackles for loss, 10.5 sacks, and a forced fumble. Now, when looking through this guy, the Draft Network, they're big on the draft and that. They called him the best kept secret in the NFL draft here, and it's easy to see why. This guy is a Swiss Army knife when it comes to where you can deploy him. He can hit you anywhere, from the 3 tech on the edge of a guard all the way out to 9 tech, like literally the furthest you can line up across that line away from the quarterback and still have an impact on him. And you can see tape of him at all positions coming at you. He will beat bigger offensive linemen. He's got finesse. He's got really good hands, which sort of just render the size difference null and void. He can use his hands to get past you. And, you know, if you're a smaller offensive lineman, he will just straight up wreck you with the power that he has there. You know, he's just got this controlled brutality about him, which is just, it's amazing. I just saw so many guys get completely and utterly pancaked by him. Now, you know, teams this year, they've tried to, I've seen him where he's been double teamed. I've even seen triple teams on him. Guys specifically leave like extra tight ends and running backs in to try and deal with him. And because he gets all this added attention, he's sort of got this really crafty IQ about him as well, where he really has to figure out his route towards the quarterback. He's got to be smart because he's got that many guys on him. You know, he needs to know how to get to the quarterback quick. And you can see that in his play. He's really clever about choosing his routes and his angles of attacks. And, you know, but for me, it's the sheer versatility of where you can play him. You can play him so far along that line, almost to the interior defensive line, all the way out to the edge, and you will be able to do something with him. He is a complete and utter mismatched nightmare. And Dan Campbell loves those guys.
Yeah, he is. He's a very much a utility player. Good against the run. He can help shut up the middle if needs be. Like say, he's got that great finishing ability. Like say, he's got about 180 career tackles. So he's able to wrap up because he's got those nice arms. He wants to give you a big hug. But like say, he's got the power. Once he stands up a running back, he's able to then force and drive them back. Yeah, like you will not. Like say, you shall not pass. He's got very much strength on the inside. And then outside, that's where he does the business, isn't it? Like say, he's savvy. If you put a tight end out there that fakes a route or comes out on a route and chips him, he's able to just breeze past them. He drops the shoulder. So nice, like say, finesse. He's got all the technique there. But then it's like say, once he gets underneath pad level, he doesn't have to go around you. He will just drive you back into the quarterback. Like say, he will take the offensive lineman with him because he is incredibly powerful. He has got that muscular, like 6'4", 6'5" frame, like say, and he just drives. Like say, once he gets going and gets momentum up and gets ahead of steam, you're not really going to stop him. But he will be able to go around you as well. I say he works with the hands really well. He will rip hands down. He will push them up. He will swim. He will go around you. Like saying, in pursuit, he's great getting after the quarterback. Like say, in a straight line, if you do roll out away from him, he will go after you. And I'm hoping he's going to be a bit like what Sam Hubbard has been this year. He's had a bit of a breakout. Like say, he's played all over that defensive line, especially when Trey Hendrickson hadn't been in. He had a great finishing ability. And he's got that length and size like this guy, 270, 6'5". So this guy's going to be one of the best names to watch, I think, as a pure defensive lineman. You don't know where you're going to match him up. You'll line him up all over. Don't expect him to ever leave the field.
No, exactly. And, you know, if you sat here listening to this going, well, if this guy's so great at everything, why is he sort of projected day 2? Now, there are little bits here that do this. So his bend is not the most elite in the world. If he is really trying to go around the edge, if he's trying to get around a much bigger guy who's pushing him out, he will maybe struggle a little bit with that. And they say there are issues over his stamina, but I think that's just because, as Ryan mentioned there, he's out there all the time. He's going to get knackered towards the end of games, but I guess you need him fit for those crucial last drives and that. And then the only other thing really that I saw was people, talking about the competition in the MAC West, but you can only beat what's put in front of you. And this guy has beaten triple teams and double teams. I don't care what league you're in. You can beat 3 guys on your way to a quarterback hit, then you're something special. So I'm so excited to watch this guy come Senior Bowl day. He's definitely up there in my list of top guys I'm wanting to see ball out. Moving on. So the next guy, Kingsley Enagbare. He's a 4-year guy from South Carolina. Now, when we did when we first announced the roster and just went through it all very briefly before the teams were split up, we did already highlight Enagbare out as one of the guys to watch. So don't have to go a complete rundown on him again. You can go back and see that there. But I mean, just a quickly brief on him. I mean, this is another guy who's got a lot of potential there. He has consistently produced in the SEC for the last 3 years. He's been consistently good in a division where it's not easy to get a lot of production, especially against some of the bigger teams. When you're on some of these bad teams, it's not easy. You're coming up against some damn good offensive linemen. And yes, there are little bits you can work on, but if you can produce consistently over 4 years in the SEC on one of the lesser teams, you've got something about you.
Yeah, he is a really good player. Like, the numbers, they don't back it up. Like, you look at his career totals, there's not a right lot there. I don't have the sacks. He doesn't really have the tackles for like a 4-year starter, but that is just statistical. Like I say, he plays much better than he wraps up the numbers. Like I say, he does generate pressure. Like I say, they don't really measure pressures at a collegiate level. Like I say, he's got good sack numbers, but not as many as you'd expect. Like I say, he's really good off the edge and I'd put him on like a forefront. Like I say, they're multiple, the more offensive linemen you've got in our defensive lineman, like he wants to work on the outside, doesn't want to be towards the edge. Like I say, he's a pure edge rusher. People say the lack of his game is the run game, because sometimes he needs to rely more, he needs to trust himself. Don't believe what he sees. Like I say, he will take for granted if he sees where the back is or where he assumes the play is going. Like I say, and if they then do something different, can be caught out, panic a little bit. Like say, if he doesn't diagnose like a blocker coming across the line, they will dispose of him fairly quickly. So he needs to be another one that diagnoses players a lot quicker and is able to increase the IQ a little bit. Like say, because he's very much what you see, what you get. So he needs to realize that you will see fake fronts, you will see the reverses, there's pulling guards and tackles. So there's things out there that will cause misdirection that he doesn't always diagnose just yet.
Yeah, I know. I fully agree with that. I think if you're watching Enagbare during the Senior Bowl, watch how he closes off the edge and how he does against the run in that regards. That's where he needs to learn what he's doing. But in terms of just being an all-out pass rusher, I agree. He's a lot better than the stats. I think he's got 8 sacks per season for the last 3 years. So he's, if anything, but consistent with his numbers. But again, he's up against a high caliber of guys in that division. So a lot to like with him, but there are a lot to like with a lot of these edge rushers. And speaking of, moving on, the next guy, Amare Barno. He is a 2-year guy from Virginia Tech. He is 6'6", 245 pounds, 48 solo tackles, 38 assisted, 21.5 tackles for loss, 10 sacks, 3 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, 1 fumble recovery. Slightly quieter year this year than the one before, but still decent. He got 35 overall tackles, 5.5 for a loss, 3.5 sacks, 1 pass defended, and 1 forced fumble. And if you're thinking, maybe I've heard this name before over the course of the season, then you're right. You probably have done, and that would be because the first game of the season, when Virginia Tech absolutely wrecked Sam Howell and the University of North Carolina, he had a day and a half there. He had 1.5 sacks on the day. I think he had a tackle for loss as well. He also had a forced fumble. I believe he strip sacked Sam Howell that day. He had an absolute barnstormer not playing any puns on his last name there, but he had a really good day, and his name was mentioned a lot of times. And he was just on a bad Virginia Tech team this year. I don't think they were able to keep it up as the season went by. But you go back and watch that game alone, you can see just how good this guy is. So he's so much as an edge, they use him as a pass rushing outside linebacker. That is where he plays. That is his bread and butter. He's really quick off the line. His downhill speed is amazing. Hence why he was getting so many sacks and strip sacks in that game. His downhill speed is really, really good. He will attack the inside. He will attack the outside. He will keep blockers guessing at the line of scrimmage there. And, if he wants to go through the interior, he's quite a powerful guy. He will go in there and he will maul you out the way if he gets the opportunity to. So you really can't sleep on him. And then as a run defender, he shows patience. He hangs out there on the edge. He will diagnose the play. He will go and fill in the gaps. He will get after a runner. It's actually, quite a good trait of his to see. He will not make any rash decisions. He will sit there and he will wait and see what he needs to do, and he will go and do it. Only thing he really needs to work on, so his strength, he needs a lot more functional strength. Obviously, if he wants to go through the interior, affect the edge a little bit more, he does need to build up a bit of mass, and he needs to work how to use his hands a little better to help with his pass rushing. But I mean, this is a guy who, with a little bit of fine tuning, this edge class is quite stacked all the way down into day 2. There's going to be a lot of great value to be had down there, and he's just another one of these guys who potentially be a game changer for someone.
Yeah, defensive lineman, edge, the entire class has got depth. Like I say, it's broken down into guys that can rush the passer and then ones that can stop the run. And like I say, this guy, he's better at the run than some of the others we mentioned. Like I say, he's got that patience. Like I say, he's not as aggressive. Like I say, he doesn't get too carried away and then forget his assignment. He'll still fill the gap he needs to. And if that takes too long to produce, then like I say, he'll haul ass, get to the quarterback, and he's got a nose for the ball as well. Like I say, he's forced a few of those out this year. When he gets the quarterback in the backfield, he knows what to do with his hands. He knows where to go, to rip, to punch. It's just, like I say, at the line of scrimmage, handwork needs to improve. Like I say, don't want to see them getting too high. Don't want to see him getting called for hands to the face, which I feel like he might do if he's a bit jumpy or if he's not too sure just how he's doing. So, but I think, like I say, it could be a guy as well, like, I wouldn't surprise me to see him drop into coverage. Like I say, if you fake using him, like I say, and he can come back and be a spy. Like I say, so he will get his hands in the passing lane as well. Because like I say, he's good at reading a quarterback. So he's going to offer someone a lot of value in that like day 2 to 3 kind of slot.
Yeah, agreed there. And now another intriguing one, and you'll know about this guy. Probably, I'm assuming you will because you've been watching his quarterback all season, and he's another one who's going to be going in the same kind of area in the draft of him. You're probably looking at a project guy in the 4th or 5th round. So this is D'Angelo Malone. He plays for Western Kentucky, the Hilltoppers. He's been there for 5 years. Obviously, Bailey Zappa has been under center there this season. He is 6'4", 240 pounds. Now, his numbers are slightly crazy. So his career, 183 solo tackles, 166 assisted tackles, 59 tackles for loss, 32.5 sacks, 7 passes defended, 8 forced fumbles, and 1 fumble recovery, which was returned for a touchdown. His 2021 season has been pretty damn good. 44 solo tackles, 50 assisted, so pretty much 100 on the season, 17.5 tackles for loss, 8 sacks, 4 passes defended, 4 forced fumbles. Now, this guy was the CUSA Defensive Player of the Year. It's a standout by some distance. So what this guy gives you, he gives you athleticism. It's excellent. He's got speed, he's got burst, he's got quickness. He is explosive off the snap. He threatens the edge very quickly into a play. And, he works with a high motor. He will just keep coming at you all the time. And sort of the way he works, rather than bending around a guy, he'll do what they call the corner and flatten. So he will sort of almost run in a straight line, then turn on a dime and be straight in at a quarterback who's not expecting it. But as good as he is at this, and it is a really good skill to have, you have to have really good ankles, and that also leads to the problem with him, which is why he's a day 4 development guy, and that is his lack of mass and strength. He is a 6'4" guy, but he really needs to beef up a bit. When it comes to run protection, when you're trying to protect the edge, which is a huge thing in the NFL nowadays, tackles can absorb his hits. They can move him out the way pretty easily and lever him to where he's non-existent in the game. Now, as I say, he's got the agility, he's got the athleticism. So some of the times he can get past the tackle who's trying to stop him. But a lot of the times, if they engage him, he suddenly becomes non-existent in the run game. And that is obviously a huge aspect of the game that you have to work on. But if you can fix that, if you can carry on getting the same production out of him when it comes to pass rushing and increase him in the run game, then for potentially a project 4th round pick, which you're getting at the minute, which is exactly the same sort of area that Bailey Zappa is projected to go in the draft, you could potentially land a slam dunk hit here with this guy.
I think you're going to have to stand him up. I don't think he can play edge. I think this guy is probably going to move to outside linebacker. I don't think he will gain the weight or put on the mass to play with his hand in the dirt and to consistently win off the edge. For me, when I look at him, I kind of see a bit like Micah Parsons. He's got the build, he's got the energy as well. Like you say, he's got a one-track mind to harass the quarterback. He is obviously going to be that designated pass rusher. You're going to have him blitzing an awful lot. But if you're going to have his hand in the dirt, he is going to have to tweak his entire game. Like I say, right now, he's too much about, like, I want to go fast. I want to go hard. I want to go off the line. I want to go through you. There's not enough patience there. I think he will very much struggle in the run game. I think you could run guys straight at him. And if he's too over-aggressive, or if he takes, like, say, the bad angle, like, say, I think he will get beaten on the outside. So I think he needs to think carefully about where he thinks he's the most effective. Because I'm not sure it's on the defensive line, but he has got the, like, say, he's got the raw athleticism. Like, say, he's got the length. Like, say, he's got the slenderish frame that needs work and it needs a bit of bulk added to it. But as a weapon and getting to the quarterback, like, say, designated, definitely going to be a blitzer. You're going to put him in packages. You're going to dial up, send him in pressure. Everything else needs a lot of work, but there's the tools to work there physically and the aggressiveness. Like I say, he's got the hastiness, twitchy. So he could slide, but you never know. Like I say, he could get a lot of sacks out of the guy.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see where they play him in the Senior Bowl game itself. Like you say, maybe they'll use him as an outside linebacker. You never know. I mean, we do have quite a few linebackers in this team, but if that's where they feel like they can get the most production out of him, I would expect them to make that change rather quickly. And it seems to be the theme of the Western Kentucky side this year. A lot of guys with incredibly high upside if you get it right. It's the same with Zappa. If you get it right with him, you're probably going to get him in the 4th or 5th as a minimum. Then, you're going to have a hell of a deal on your hands there. Moving on to the last one in the class. So in pretty much rinse and repeat what I've just said for the last guy, but just with a lot less production. So it's Michael Clemens, who's from Texas A&M. He's been there 4 years, 6'5", 270 pounds, 93 total tackles in his career, 20.5 tackles for loss, 12.5 sacks, 2 passes defended, a forced fumble, a fumble recovery. His 2021, 32 total tackles, 11 tackles for a loss, 7 sacks, 2 passes defended, and he got his forced fumble and his fumble recovery touchdown there. This is another guy who's a good pass rusher, but he's a bad run defender. What makes him good in his pass rush is the arsenal of moves he has. He pretty much does everything you could want from him there. And he sort of mixes that with slightly above average traits to be a good pass rusher. Obviously, the more moves you have, the less specialized you have to be, but he's effective there when he wants to be. But in the run game, similar to before, he's really bad at diagnosing run plays for one. He looks lost a lot of the time that he's playing, and he sets the edge too wide, allowing running backs, opportunities to run inside a little bit more there. And it's something that he really has to work on here. So again, another development project you're taking who has pass rush upside, but really needs to get their act together in terms of the run game.
Yeah, I've seen a few Texas A&M games this year. They struggled against the run. This guy, he does the offensive lineman's job for him, as you say, just starts in bad positions. You can't line up that wide because they're doing the job for you. They will funnel you outside, and then if you get beaten inside by the running back, it's going to be very glaringly obvious it's your fault. or like say if they put a tight end out there, he's never going to be able to fill the gap that is left on the edge. So setting the edge and not diagnosing a run at the next level will get him crucified. Like say moving through traffic if he's trying to cross the field, or if they're motioning people, like say I could see him getting confused. So this one's certainly a project. Like I say, there's some stuff to work with, but he needs to refine his game, and he needs a lot more discipline. Like I say, you're going to run the ball at him. Like I say, he's going to struggle to set that edge there.
Yeah, agreed. I think those last two certainly very developmental, but looking forward to seeing the ones aforementioned for them quite a lot there. I just realized this week I've forgotten. Ash obviously mentioned last week. Would we trade any guys out that on the other side for any of these? So, just in terms of we're on D line now, aren't we? Yeah, we're on D line. No, are we on edge? We're on edge. I've lost edge. D edge. Where's my edge? I don't know. They're all on the D line. Oh, they'll all be on the D line. So there's Logan Hall, Dominique Robinson from Miami, Ohio, Boy Maffei from Minnesota, Haskell Garrett, Ohio State, Tyreek Smith, Ohio State. You've got the Oklahoma duo, Perion Winfrey, Isaiah Thomas. Penn State, you've got Arnold Ebiketie. Minnesota, you've got Esizi Otemewu, and then you've got Tito Ogbonia from UCLA. Any guys? I think that sort of covers the edges and the defensive line there.
I like our group.
Yeah,
because I'm not interested in interior defensive linemen. I'm not interested in this year at all. We need edge, and we've got three of the best edge players.
Yeah, I agree. I don't think I'd really swap anyone out of those either. Certainly, there's no names to come to mind like to do with some of the other position groups. In fact, we've got one of the most rotten groups coming up now, actually. So that's everything for the edge players. And now we're moving on to the linebackers. And we've really been given the short straw in terms of our side of the team for this. So we've got Jojo Doman from Nebraska, Damone Clark from LSU. We've got the George pair of Key Walker and Channing Tindall. We've got DeMarco Jackson from Appalachian State, Aaron Hansford from Texas A&M, and Jeremiah Moon from Florida. Now, so we start off with Jojo Doman, the Nebraska guy. Now, I'd not really read much about him before we came up to this. I'd not really given him much thought, but I have watched his tape, as per most of the other guys here. I've read what's been written about him, and this guy has a hell of a lot of hype about him. And, you know, he's been probably described as one of the most pro-ready guys there are here already. So he's a 5-year guy from Nebraska. He's 6'1", 230 pounds. His career, over 200 total tackles, 26.5 tackles for a loss, 5.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, 15 passes defended, 9 forced fumbles, 3 fumble recoveries, another fumble machine. His 2021 has been really good. 44 solo tackles, 27 assisted, 9 tackles for a loss, 2 sacks, 2 interceptions, 3 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles. Now, he was a defensive back for 2 years, turned outside linebacker now. His experience at defensive back means that he's probably one of the best coverage linebackers going in the entire draft at all. And, you know, there's a kind of premium on those guys at the minute. He's got a high footballing IQ. He's very versatile on the pitch. He's a natural born leader on and off it as well. He gives you a lot of what you're looking for from that outside linebacker position. He's fluid mover when it comes to zone coverage. He can mirror routes. He can line up against tight ends all the way out to outside wide receiver, you know, because again, he's got that defensive back experience of matching up against these guys. But it's sort of his hybrid ability here that you're looking at. I mean, I've watched him here and I really like him. I think we might have got one of the best linebackers out of this group. Obviously not that one who we're mentioning, but I think we've got really lucky getting to see this guy up close.
He's not a linebacker though, is he? He doesn't project as he will not play a linebacker at the NFL. I think he's too small. I think put him back at safety. Like that was his bread and butter. Like I say, he's got the 3 passes defended this year, 2 interceptions. That's only because they're bringing him up to the line and dropping him back into coverage. But I think he far suits being on the back end more. As you mentioned, he's got the downhill speed. He forces fumbles. I think he needs the bigger run up. I think against some of the bigger backs, he could struggle. Like say, trying to match up as a guy, like say, at the next level. Like say, he's not the biggest, scraping 6'1". Like say, so he's not got the size. I'm not convinced he'll be able to hold his own. But as a betwixt and between kind of guy, like a Butter Baker, like you say, he plays that hybrid role. He's that kind of same size. So I think this guy is certainly going to do a job there. He's had the numbers have trended up massively this year because he's been closer to line of scrimmage. So he's got nearly 20 more tackles than he's had in most other previous years. So he's been much busier. Being on a dreadful team, like Nebraska, are dreadful. So Scott Frost has relied on him. So I agree, he's got those leadership capabilities. He's taken this defense by the scruff of the neck because a lot of it was crappy. So he stood out on a poor team. Like I say, I don't know where he's going to work out. Like I say, I don't know. I don't feel like he's a natural fit at backer. But even though he's got the coverage skills, like I say, but can he hold his own against a big tight end? Like I say, with that the reasonable frame. So I think as one of the maybe Swiss Army knives is a value pick in middle rounds, I'd definitely love to have the guy because we need both positions. So he can work well there. He'd be someone that Aaron Glenn would probably really like, someone he could mould. There's a lot there to work with. So I think he's certainly an interesting player. He's an interesting name.
I think if you see him have a good senior ball week, I think you'll see maybe Aaron Glenn banging at Dan Campbell's door going, I want him. He's like that shiny toy in the window, like you say, who can just do a little bit of everything. But when you've got that versatility, that hybrid ability, that gets valued more and more in the NFL these days. The ability to be able to be fluid in where you play, like you say, you can drop him into coverage and coverage linebackers, especially for us. I mean, when was the last time we had a really good coverage linebacker? I'm genuinely struggling to think. I mean, who would you think for the Lions as the last good coverage linebacker? God, is it that long ago? It's not that long ago.
Right, it is. Tahir Whitehead was crap in coverage. Like I say, he was one of the better ones. I don't know.
Let's just say that
Tulloch won't worse. We've got to go back and say at least 5-6 years.
Let's just say we've not had a good coverage linebacker in some time, and it needs to be at the top of the shopping list. And if we can't get Devin Lloyd, which we're probably not going to be able to, given where the boards are going to fall, then JoJo is going to have to be right at the top of that list we can guide. But hopefully they think like us, but we'll see. We'll move on through the linebackers. So a few of these we've already mentioned in previous episodes. We'll just briefly go over them. So Damone Clark from LSU, he's a 4-year guy there. He's worked his way in there very slowly. Now, I think the brief overview of Damone Clark is athletically incredibly gifted, but everything else sort of needs a little bit of fine tuning to make him a real top prospect. But he's got like the key attributes you need to make a really good linebacker.
He can tackle. He had a phenomenal year. He had 136 tackles this year, so he has got a nose for the ball. He basically knows who's got the ball and when, and he meets them in the hole. Like I say, he fills in. He knows his assignment. He's one of those very much like, just give me a job to do and I'll do it. Tell me which hole to hit, I'll meet the running back. So he diagnoses players quickly. He doesn't get fooled by the quarterback if they try spike it or they try double pump him. He understands the run game, so he is going to be a come down, straight line linebacker. Hits like a truck as well. Like I say, he's got a long frame, so he's going to be a tackle machine at the next level, I think. But everything else, as you say, needs a lot of work. Do I trust him to drop into coverage? Only had his first interception this year, so not necessarily.
Ken's watching us on YouTube. He says in the chat, Levy. That's probably right. I think going back to the coverage linebacker. But he also says Tulloch was good, and I would agree there, but not as good as Levy. But I think that the overall message is we're long overdue a good coverage linebacker, and there are there to be taken in the draft. So we can certainly get one, and let's hope that's the way they go, because that's the next level of the defense we need to really build up there. So moving on. So we've got the Georgia pairing now. Now we mentioned these with the Georgia defense been on so often. So you've got Key Walker, you've got Channing Tindall. Now out of those two, obviously Nakobe Dean gets all the love from the linebacker core in there and takes up so much of the play as it was. But these two guys, these are both projected top 75 picks as well. I mean, what a thing it'd be for Georgia to have three linebackers go in the top 75. But I think Key Walker, I look at, he's more got that hybrid potential about him. I think I can see him playing a bit of inside, a bit of outside there. And then Channing Tindall, he's the power guy that you have in the middle to try and stuff the run or, get some heavy blitzing going in there. I mean, there's a lot to like about them both, but they're potential guys, aren't they? I think I know you're getting them up there and you're getting really good pedigree, but both of them need fine tuning as well.
Yeah, Key Walker, I've not seen enough of him. I say I've not seen him be busy enough, active enough. I see him out there and doing stuff, but he's not getting involved. He's not in the pile, and it reflects in his numbers. The tackle numbers across his career, they're not that high. Like I say, he hasn't had a plethora. Like I say, so he needs to be busier. He needs to be out there. I don't want him to be just a passenger. I feel that's what he's been on the fantastic Georgia defense this year. Bit of a passenger. Whereas Channing Tindall, as I mentioned, he could be your Mike Backer. Like you say, he could be the one that's dialing the players in. 5.5 tackles this season, sacks. So he's about 6'1", so he's a designated pass rusher. As you mentioned there, if a hole comes up, you will call his number and you will blitz him. And more often than not, he's going to affect the quarterback and he's going to blow up the player there. 67 tackles as well this year. So I prefer Tindall, I think, more than I do Walker, because I think he's got that also the ability to hit the hole as well, and you can send him on a 3rd, 4th down. You put him as a designated blitzer or show blitz, drop into coverage. I think he's got a good frame as well. So I think there's lots to like about both of them, but they've both kind of fallen into the background. Like I said, likes of Nakobe Dean has just blown them all out of the water.
Well, that's it. You don't know how much it's just like Nakobe's doing everything and they're not getting the chance to do it themselves. So it's not one. I agree with you. I think Tyndall may be the one to go for if you go in there, but I think there's just polished guys in front of them who we really need right now. And I don't think we need these guys who we're going to develop out into something. I want someone who knows exactly what they are and what they're going to be. But it's intriguing. So you've got your main guy up front with Dome, and you've got a few potential good guys in there as well. But the end of this list just makes really, really sad viewing. So you've got DeMarco Jackson next. He's from Appalachian State, 4-year guy there, 6'1", 230 pounds. Tackled a lot in his career. He's got nearly 300 career tackles over those 4 years, 35.5 tackles for loss, 11.5 sacks, 3 interceptions, 14 passes defended, and a forced fumble. So in coverage, he's quite decent. 2021, 129 tackles, 20 tackles for a loss, 6 sacks, an interception, 5 passes defended, and a forced fumble. So he's had a really busy year at Appalachian State, who had a decent year. They went 10-3 overall, but they lost their Sun Belt championship game, and then they got whooped by Western Kentucky in the bowl game. But this guy, he's got great speed. He is a sideline to sideline guy. And if you give him the opportunity, he's got really great speed to cover all the pitch. And if you give him an opportunity to blitz, if there's a room there for him, he will be able to take it. But I mean, outside of that, there's a lot not to like here. He can't block very well at the second level. So when these big tackles, tight ends are coming up to force running lanes, he's really bad when it comes to those situations, and his coverage is really questionable as well. This is like a late round flyer that you're going to throw a pick away on and hope that you can fix some of these bigger issues with him. But I know he's had a really good year here, but I don't see much for me. I'm not a fan.
He's got the same strengths and the same glaring weaknesses and the same build as Derek Barnes. So I'm going to avoid him. The coverage there is an issue, but in pursuit and tackling side to side can be electric and sniff down players. But yeah, he's someone that will get picked on.
Yeah. I'm not expecting to see a great deal there. And I think it's the same with these other two, I can safely say as well. So you've got Aaron Hansford next. He's Texas A&M, 4-year guy there, 6'3", 240 pounds. He's got 157 tackles in his career, 18.5 for a loss, 7 sacks, 6 passes defended, 2 forced fumbles, or 2 fumble returns, sorry, one of them for a touchdown. Now, this guy is here purely because he is a pass coverage linebacker. He can work against tight ends and running backs out of the backfield. And that, as we mentioned earlier, that is a premium position in the NFL now. Good good pass coverage linebackers. You really, really need them, especially with the amount of tight ends and running backs get used out the backfield now. And this is something he really needs to show in the Senior Bowl because everything else about his game, he can't tackle. He struggles to make tackles. He can't bring ball carriers down on his own. He's had 2 medical red shirts, which is also a flag as well. But just every single aspect of his game needs a lot of improvement. And he's there primarily because he can do the one premium thing pretty well. But everything else needs to be severely upgraded.
Yeah, he sounds like someone that is maybe going to play other positions. Like I say, he sounds like he could struggle as a linebacker. Tackling him very good. Gets hurt. Like I say, he could be I don't know, maybe try him at a safety position. Like I say, if his coverage skills are that good, can come in the box. If he can pick up a backer or a running back out the field. But it sounds like he is going to struggle.
Yeah, I'm not expecting much there. And then the last guy, Jeremiah Moon, Florida. He's been there 6 years, 6'2", 245 pounds now. 6-year guy. He's got 151 tackles, 14 for a loss, 8 sacks, 4 passes defended, 1 forced fumble. Now, he's another guy who's been sort of an edge linebacker hybrid, and they deploy him as like a stand-up rusher who's there to take advantage of the gaps of the there because he's quite speedy and he's got decent length and his coverage is okay. But again, outside of everything, he lacks the mass, he lacks the strength, and just the ability to like deal with blocking. And again, he's not really got a standout trait. There's nothing there. Like with at least with Hansford, he is a standout like coverage linebacker. He can do that little bit of the job there, but this guy's just nothing. He stands out in 6 years. So little productivity. It makes you wonder.
Yeah, you can't always teach old dogs new tricks, and without looking at his age, he's been in college 6 years. He's an old dog. If I had to guess, I guess he's at least 21, 22 already.
He's on the older side. I think grab his age there, but again, it's just something that's there's not really anything there that's sitting out that much. I think this linebacker group we've got outside of JoJo is, like I say, you've got 3 guys in there potentially really good, but you've got one who's there ready, but then the back end of it, I just don't think there's really any value there. So for me, a disappointing group. I don't know about you, you may agree, but I mean, looking on the Jets side of it, they've got Terrell Bernard from Baylor. They've got Darian Beavers from Cincinnati, Mike Rose from Iowa State. They've got Jesse Luketa from Penn State. They've got Devin Lloyd from Utah, and they've got Sterling Weatherford from Miami, Ohio. Positional change there. That's interesting. We'll talk about that in a sec. There's Chad Muma from Wyoming, Brian Asamoah II from Oklahoma, Troy Anderson from Montana State, and oh no, that's it. That's all them. I'll ask you the question: would you swap any? How many would you swap? Because it's not a question of if; it's a question of how many.
Oh, easily. I'm taking Troy Anderson. I'm taking Chad Muma, and I'm taking Mike Rose. Like I say, we got the short straw.
And Devin Lloyd.
Yeah. Well, I've seen him, so I'm not bothered about him. I know he's the best. I'm not bothered what he can do, but yeah, Troy Anderson, fantastic year at Montana State. Chad Muma, he's a big guy, and like I say, he's strong. Like I say, really good. And Mike Rose, I think he's like a Mike linebacker, one of the leaders of the Iowa State defense. So there's a lot to like there. There's more guys there that stand up and take the game by the scruff of the neck.
I was on Luke G's podcast the other day. I was chatting with him there, and they were raving about Chad Muma. They absolutely love him to death. There's one of the guys on there who's just like, "Oh my god, he's absolutely incredible." I'm like, "Bloody hell, I've got to watch this." But I'm then like, damn it, he's on the Jets side. It's just they've got a lot here. I mean, what do you make of the decision to move Sterling Weatherford there as well? Because I know you've watched him there as the safety. He was on your safety list to watch this year. It was interesting when he turned up as a linebacker.
Don't surprise me that much. He is like 6'3", 220, 230. He's a big guy. Like I say, he's a bit big to play safety. He's more of a box guy as well. Gets the odd interception, but he's a tackler. He is a tackle machine. Like I say, he's a captain, a leader. He's been there multiple years. Like I say, he can get the ball out, got a good nose for it, can force the odd fumble or recover one. So I think it's going to be interesting. I think he's going to play all over. he's going to be really fun to watch, actually.
Mm. Yeah, I'm going to be interested to see how he plays. He was doing very well at safety, and but if he can come up and play well there again, maybe the hybrid ability there really sticks out if he can just slot right in and play linebacker. But I'm with you. I'd trade just about everybody in this apart from JoJo, and I would just replace him with guys from that side. We really, really got the bad end of the deal here. So we'll move it on. We're coming towards the end of all this now. So we have the cornerbacks, and I actually really like our cornerback group we've got from this. So we'll start off with probably the standout of the lot of them. So we've got the 4-year guy, Roger McCreary from Auburn. He's 6 foot exactly, 190 pounds, but he's had a very productive career. 111 solo tackles, 24 assisted. He's got 10 for a loss, a sack, 6 interceptions. Returned them for 98 yards. So once he gets them, he can bring them back on you real quick. And he's got a return touchdown from one of those. 30 passes defended, 14 of those were this year. He's got 2 fumble recoveries. He's got a forced fumble as well. If you want a really good coverage corner out of this draft, then Roger McCreary is the name that you put on the ticket first.
Yeah, he has got a nose for the ball. He reads receivers really well. He knows when to put his hands up. Like I say, he knows not to get caught looking inside. He doesn't interfere much. Like I say, he doesn't draw all the penalties. He is someone that has great hand-eye coordination. Like I say, he gets hands in there. He's strong. He keeps his wrists in there when he's going to ground to try pop the ball out. So for someone that's not that big, because he's not that physically strong. He's not the best tackler, but he's sticky. Like I say, he's a pain in the ass to get rid of. Like I say, so getting separation from him is not easy. I think he'll excel in man coverage. Like I say, he wants a guy, he'll stay with him, and he'll see the play out to the end. So I think he's someone that I don't know where you take him. I don't think he's a first rounder. But I think for a day 2 option, he's someone that you'll take a long, hard look at. One of the better man guys, like I say, in the draft, which is what everyone wants these days. You don't want zone corners. You want a guy that can play man like Jalen Ramsey does.
Exactly. And like I say, his is the name you go for. And obviously, I mean, out of the Senior Bowl there, obviously, if you're going to go for a coverage guy, then Sauce is your go-to for coverage. He's just completely as locked down as they come. But in terms of these Senior Bowl guys, he offers you a hell of a lot there. And I mean, he's not the only one. We've got some really good ones. So the second guy we've got Darian Kendrick from Georgia. Now, obviously, that entire Georgia defense has been amazing this year. He spent 3 years at Clemson initially, didn't get the most of look-ins there sometimes with those. So he transferred to Georgia this year. He had 15 games, I think 41 total tackles, 2 for a loss, so he can get in the backfield when he wants to. 4 interceptions. He is a ball hawk. 3 passes defended. Again, he's another guy who roams that secondary and can sniff the ball out before it's on its way. I think, obviously with that interior defensive line of theirs this year, the secondary wasn't tested as much as maybe some others were, but when it was, he would step up for you. And again, he's a really athletic guy who can make plays.
Yeah, he plays bigger than he is. He's only if you say 6 foot, I think that's probably being kind to him. I'd say if you measured him, he's about 5'11". I'd say he's not.
He's the college size, as they call it. The college sizes are always a few inches bigger than when it comes to the combine.
He don't have long arms either, though. Like say, he's got quite short arms. I think he's got that small build, but he's powerful, as you mentioned. Tackles for loss, which means he's either come up like on a blitz. I think they've blitzed him in the backfield, and he's got the running back. So they're willing to bring him closer to line of scrimmage, which tells you, unlike McCreary, I think Kendrick's probably a more sure tackler. Like say, he may lose the odd guy, so I may get in behind him. But if you bring him closer to line of scrimmage, I think he's probably more of a bang kind of corner. Like say, he's got the ball skills, he's got the finishing. Like say, he's got the picks, pass defended. So he's had a nice year. As you mentioned, he's probably not been as targeted as many times as people have been. Like say, because Georgia, not many quarterbacks got that many passes off on him. So when you did, you probably regretted it, 4 interceptions. So had a really good year, increased his stock, probably at least 200%.
And it's quite a ballsy move because 3 years at Clemson when you've not seen the most production out there and you're into your last year and you go to Georgia And I mean, that secondary there is pretty damn good. So you're betting on yourself big to go there, be a starter, and get good enough production to make your draft stock go up. And that's what I like about it.
Yeah, they saw something in him. Otherwise, they wouldn't even give him a contract, like say, to give him a scholarship, because he didn't do much at Clemson. But Georgia saw something in him and like, well, you can come start here, swap the ACC for the SEC, and like I say, finish as a champion. So his career has ticked up nicely. Like I say, he's leaving at the very best possible time.
Yeah, yeah. And I think he's going to garner a lot of interest in the draft. I do think he's going to do really well. But speaking of guys who didn't move away from Clemson, they're 4-year guys there. This is the next guy. So this is Mario Goodrich, who's on the list next. So he's been at Clemson for 4 years. This is probably his first busy year, his first 3 again. Like Kendricks were pretty quiet. So this year he got 42 total tackles, half tackle for a loss, got 2 interceptions, 1 that he returned for a touchdown, 9 passes defended, and he's got a forced fumble as well. This guy's not a guy you send into the backfield to create damage there. He is purely a coverage guy who you keep in your defense to keep those airways clear. And, you know, as bad as Clemson were this year, this defense was pretty locked down when it came to how it played. It didn't give up many points.
No, for as bad as Clemson were for the first maybe 7-8 games, it was not because of defense. It was all the offense that stunk this year. Defense kept them in games many times. They clamped down a lot of offenses. We saw that likes of NC State where they proper buckled down. Goodrich, I was impressed. I liked what I saw this year, but he's a lot of cover 2, cover 3. He doesn't play line of scrimmage. He's not really a press corner. Like I say, he likes that cushion, which I think he manages well. He gives receivers a run up on him, but he's still able to keep good pace with them. He's still able to keep pretty good coverage. I think what I like about zone corners is it's good communication. They're able, at the NFL, you're getting at crossing routes. They're not easily confused when guys swap and cross between them. They know to pick one guy off and one drop guy off. As the Lions, we don't do that though. We will give you an assignment. We will give you a person. So now what he needs to show us is he can play press. He can win at the line of scrimmage and have strong hands, and he's able to interfere guys getting a break off the line. That's all he really needs to show us. But other than that, got nice long arms, got some good traits to work with. Just need to now see the physicality.
Yeah, I agree. It's going to be good to be able to give him a good run out during the week, just to be able to sort of really fine tune that with him and see really what he can do as well. But again, yeah, he played on a really good defense last year, so I expect him to make waves if he comes in and plays like he did there. Now, speaking of defenses that made waves, and I know they're not a very posh team, but we've already had one guy from here, and that's Nebraska. Obviously, we had JoJo Demand there. They may be a bad team, but their defense, you've got some really good guys on here. And I've heard this guy's name mentioned quite a lot in recent times as well. He seems to be gaining, seems to be getting more popular as time goes along, especially since he got into the Senior Bowl team. And that's Cam Taylor-Britt. He's the cornerback from Nebraska. He spent 4 years there. The Big Ten played a lot of games for them. He's got 140 overall tackles. He's got 10 for a loss. He's consistent in the way he goes about getting those. He's got 2.5 sacks as well, so he can get after the quarterback. He's got 5 interceptions, which he's returned for 150 yards. So every interception he gets, he's averaging a 30-yard return on it. So he's got wheels. He's also scored a touchdown off one of those as well. 22 passes defended, half of which came in the season just gone. 4 forced fumbles and a fumble recovery. This guy can do a little bit of everything, and he can do it really well. And he's coming off a defense, which again, it's not a posh, flashy team, but Nebraska, if they do one thing, they do defend well. It's just their offense is usually quite garbage. I quite like this guy.
Oh, I really like this guy. He is the most productive, probably all the corners we've got. Like I said, and that, well, Nebraska have been, for his career, they've been rolled over a few times. He has seen a lot of work out there, but he's got mileage on the clock. Like I say, he's got gritty, he's resistance. Like I say, he hasn't had too many injuries, but he is a tackle machine. Like I say, Athletics Dame Brugler said he's a more talented Armani or a Warrior. That's how he pens him down. So he's a better tackler, he's grittier, he's tougher at line of scrimmage. He's a guy that gives up passes. Like, he will give up receptions, like I say, but if he does, he stops it going any further, like I say, and he's got a good nose for the ball. Like say, once he gets ball in his hands, he looks forward, get him some lead blockers, got a nice little motor on him. He is going to be a really tough corner. And like I say, I think this guy is going to probably do really well at the next level. Like I say, he's going to be great on special teams. I expect him to be one of the first guys on a kickoff or a punt return down there. Like I say, he's going to be hitting some returners. So he's going to find very versatile. Should get a lot of work at next level. Like I say, he can hold his own for that mediocre 6'5" frame. Plays tougher than that.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd have to agree with you there. And so yeah, I think the chatter he gets is very much justified. But it was quite funny. I did him, and then the guy after has sort of really similar sort of production as he does. But I don't really know anything about this next one because I've not really watched Tennessee much. We're talking about Alontae Taylor. He's the defensive back from Tennessee. He's 6 foot, 193 pounds. So he's again a 4-year guy, 162 career tackles, 5 for a loss. He's got half a sack on him. He's got 4 interceptions. He's returned his for 130 yards. So his average return carry is 32.5 yards per return. So again, got wheels when he gets the ball. He's got a touchdown as well from that. That was this season. Got 15 passes defended, 3 forced fumbles, and a touchdown as a result of one of those. It's sort of eerily similar to the production of Cam Taylor-Britt, but I don't know anywhere near as much about this guy. But again, really good production on a team that's been so-so.
Apparently, he's a former wide receiver, so he understands the mentality of what is coming at him. He understands the route tree really well. He knows what to look for when he sees, like, say, they're going to hit a double move or a fake. So he's got a smaller frame. Like I say, I see he's listed at like 195, 200. I'd like him to put 10 pounds on, especially at the next level. So there's weight there, but he's another one that loves to tackle. He never shies away from a tackle. Like I say, he comes down hard. Like I say, likes to play the run as well. Like I say, he's a corner that's willing to play against running backs, which you don't often find. So he's strong in that sense. He'll certainly hold his own. I'm not sure. Success is in man coverage, which I like. Like I say, he's primarily a man corner, but can play zone once he understands what he's passing off and what his assignments are. So I think he's definitely going to be another guy to watch there. Like I say, and I think could be a returner as well. Plays on special teams. So this is the kind of guy as well. I think you'd give him. He might return some punts and kickoffs.
Yeah, absolutely. For the corners, that's got to be a big thing as well. Their ability to play special teams as well. Most of these guys have at least done some of it during their career, so it's going to be big for them. But these are the guys who really produced and probably can make quite a difference right away. Moving on to our last few guys for the corners, this is where the project guys start to come along, and you're going to have to take a little bit more time with them. So the first one is Caleb Evans. He's from Missouri. I think he's played a little bit of both, if I remember rightly when I was watching. I think he's played a bit of safety and a bit of corner. He's 6'2" and 188 pounds, so fairly big. He spent 4 years at Tulsa first off, and then he transferred his senior year. He went to Missouri in the SEC. He's played 11 games for them, 28 tackles overall, just 1 for a loss, single interception, 6 passes defended, but a couple of forced fumbles to his resume as well. And this guy, again, is one of those, to me, he's shown a little bit of everything there, but this is a lot of development compared to the guys who've gone before him. Obviously, you're taking this guy, you're not starting him straight away. You're spending a lot of time fine-tuning his game.
Yeah, I actually really like him. I've seen him play, and it reminds me of Ife, corner, safety. He's got those long arms that reach down to the floor when he's in his back pedal. Like I say, so he's got a similar kind of build too. So I expect he's going to be like a chess piece. You're going to move him around all over the field. Like he won't just play outside corner. Like I say, and the numbers aren't there. Like I say, he's a long-term starter, primarily zone. Like I say, so he's got the strength and the arms. He's got length to work a guy at the line of scrimmage if you ask him to play press or man. But I'd say it's primarily where he needs to work. But like I say, got a good IQ. So the physical traits are there. Like I say, he wants to get physical. Hopefully not too. Like I say, I don't want to see him getting handsy at this level. So he needs to learn that discipline, especially when he comes down line of scrimmage. So he's certainly someone that you would expect to grow into a role. You're not going to throw him into the deep end.
No, no. I think that's a lot for the guys who are left here. It is, you've got to spend your time developing them, and say you like him there. The next one, I really like this guy, but I understand he's going to take a while to develop. That's Tariq Woolen. He's from UTSA. Obviously, anyone who listens to this knows I've watched UTSA a lot this year, nearly getting their undefeated streak throughout the season. That still disappoints me these days. He's been there 5 years. We actually spent his first 3 there as a wide receiver. Got some all right production there, but then for the last 2 years, they've turned him into a corner, and they've quite kind of reaped the rewards of that there. He got 63 tackles over the 2 years, 5 for a loss, 1.5 sacks. He's got 2 interceptions, got 9 passes defended. Again, he's got the physical attributes. He's 6'4", he's 205, so he's a big guy. He's good when the ball's coming at him when it's thrown in the air. I do like the technicals he brings to it as well, but he does need a little bit of fine tuning. But it wasn't one of the secondaries that got targeted the most. He didn't get the most workouts in that division, so it's going to be interesting to see how he deals with being up against a lot better former quarterback in the Senior Bowl. But if he performs well, then I rate his chances.
Yeah, he's got that. He's got the upside. Like I say, he's got added size. Like I say, he's got a bit more weight on him than some of the others as well. So he looks like he could be contributing straight away. You're going to throw him in on special teams. Like I say, he's going to be a key attribute there. Like I say, another guy that you could see working the safety role. Like I say, he's stronger depending on how fast he comes downhill. But good physicality, like I say. There's a lot to it there, very raw, like I say, but he's got physical traits that you love and look for at the next level. So let's just see how coachable he is. Like I say, he could have a big week.
Yeah, he's one of those who's got everything to gain from this there. Next one, I'm going to admit I know nothing about him, but this is down in the FCS. So you got Zion McCullum. He's from Sam Houston. Have you seen this guy at all? Because I've not watched as much FCS as you have this year, so I can't really add much about him.
Unfortunately, I've not seen a lot because he broke his leg this year and is. Oh wait, no, that's Thompson. There's another one. McCullum, high upside, small school playmaker, very good hips and length, which sounds a notable ball skills. So I think it sounds like a guy that's been up against lower level opposition and he's been able to physically mismatch and outwork them. Like I say, it's going to be the step up for him at the next level. Like I say, so I don't think he's played the highest caliber of receiver, but like I say, he sounds like someone that could translate at the next level.
Yeah, I will have to pass judgment on that during the week because I can't really offer anything else there. And then the last guy there, Josh Thompson, that you mentioned there, bad injury this year.
Yeah, he's a bit undersized and he broke his leg this year. So he plays in man coverage, consistent special teamer, good speed and athleticism, but coming downhill. So I don't think he's got the back end speed if he gets beaten. So he needs this more than anyone because he's missed most part of the whole year.
Yeah, well, we'll see how he does. Again, not one I can say I've seen a great deal of. So those last couple there, they remain to be seen as we do. So those are all the corners, just in terms of who the Jets have got. I think all their guys come together as DBs. So I'll wait till we've done the safeties. We'll quickly go through the safeties because we've been going on for a while now and don't want to bore people too much with the repetitiveness of it. So our safeties, we've got 3 of them. So we've got Tyson Anderson from Toledo. We've got the strong safety, Leon O'Neal Jr. from Texas A&M. And then we've got the mixture, free safety, strong safety. He plays both. Yusuf Corker from Kentucky. Which one immediately stands out to you as the one that you're really looking forward to seeing next week?
Strong safety. It's got to be Leon O'Neal Jr. 30-plus starter in his career at Texas A&M. Hits like a truck. Comes down really hard, plays the boxing line of scrimmage really well. Questionable if you drop him, like I say, but for me, I expect us to have a free safety lined up, like I say, for a draft or bringing back Tracy. So it's going to be who we're partnering with. Like I say, Leon O'Neal Jr. does everything well that Will Harris sucks at. Will Harris can't tackle for toffee, but this guy can tackle. Hits hard. He's got a good frame, but I think he's had the odd injury. But 5 passes defended this year and 2 interceptions. So he can play both ways. He will move around. You can rotate them if needs be. So I think he offers the most value.
Yeah, he's got 34 games in his last 3 years, so that would say that he's been quite healthy for the most part. Yeah, you agree. 161 tackles, 10 of them are for loss. He's got 6 interceptions. He's got 12 passes defended. He's got fumble recoveries in there as well. Like you say, I think everything Will Harris can't do. Intercept a ball, tackle properly. Yeah, I agree. I think strong safety has to be the priority there, because if we bring Tracy back, and hopefully if we draft Kyle, we don't need a free safety, because those two would work perfectly there as they were. But I don't know. I reckon we might go with the 3 safety sets next year. I'm not sure. Be intriguing. If we get Hamilton, I think we will.
I hope so.
Yeah, no, if we get Hamilton, I think we will. But I think Yusuf Corker's all right as well. He does a little bit of both. Obviously, he's going to be a little bit of a later pick in there, but I do like the looks of him, and I seem to like the Kentucky guys who they bring out of there. So, safeties are going to be very interesting. It's going to be one of the most closely watched groups because we need one so badly. So if one of them can ball out at the Senior Bowl, that would be great. In terms of the backs on the Jets team, if there's anyone you want in there, first guy maybe Jalen Petra, the safety from Baylor, Kobe Bryant, I think that's the corner from Cincinnati. You've got Joshua Williams, Fayetteville State. We were talking about them earlier in regards to the HCBU combine. You got Tariq Castro Fields from Penn State, the corner. I know I'd want him on ours. They've got Damari Matisse, the Pittsburgh corner, if I'm rightly. You got Jalen Watson from Washington State, Gregory Jr. from Wichita Baptist, JT Woods from Baylor, and Joseph Kirby from Illinois. Who would you want to swap out if you had the opportunity?
I'll take Bryant, Petra, and Castro Fields. I think they're the 3 biggest names there. I like Jalen Petra though. Like I say, I was really impressed in he battered Spencer Brown in that Oklahoma State championship game. One of the hits, he absolutely destroyed a receiver. He comes downfield like a missile. He is a proper strong safety. He's like 6'2" as well, like built like a brick shithouse.
We felt that hit from this side of the Atlantic, didn't we? I remember seeing it. I was just like, ooh, I felt my body like shatter to bits when I saw that hit. So God knows what the guy on the receiving end of it was like. So yeah, agreed. Just remains to finish off. No, it's been a long one, but thank you for bearing with us all. There is a lot to go through, and we're trying to get as much information out there as possible. And we have to end with hashtag special teams need love too. Not that we really need guys this year. So the kicker we have is Cameron Dicker from Texas. If I'm not mistaken, he's like their all-time record holder for like kicks and everything, for like points scored. He's got a lot of points there for them, is what I'm trying to say.
He has, but they're mainly extra points. 78% kicking of field goals over 4 years. That's not very good.
Yeah.
He's no Nick Skiba, let's put it that way. Who's had a phenomenal Wake Forest career. He's at like a 90% career average. Never missed an extra point. Like, I'm swapping the kickers. I'm swapping all of them.
I knew there's no one from Wake Forest involved in this at all in either subject we're on about. I knew they were going to get in here somehow, but yeah, I would agree. I don't think I want any of these, but we have to mention them. The punter, or the field optimization position optimization specialist, as Ash loves to call them now, Jake Kamada from Georgia. Apparently he's meant to have a pretty decent average for his punt. It's like 48 yards or something like that, but it ain't no Jack Fox. Sorry, Lado. And then the long snapper is Jordan Silver from Arkansas. And again, Scott Daly, unblemished first year, replacing a franchise legend. I don't think we really need to look for anybody here in special teams, do we?
No, we're fine. And let's be honest, I can't imagine Georgia punt the ball much. I'd love to find how many times he's actually kicked the ball this year. I bet it's very minimal.
Yeah, probably like in a sample of 10. Well, the sample size is actually 10. They probably did more in that Alabama game than they did for the rest of the season combined. It would not surprise me. We might have to look that one up there.
I think you got a good workout then, yeah.
Yeah, so that is the wrap up of all the Senior Bowl. So we did the offense last week, the defense this week. Hopefully you now have a little bit more of an an image about some of these players if you didn't know before, maybe the ones to look out for and that. But I think now all that's said and done, I'm quite looking forward to this week now, and just looking at all teams, even both teams, I could see a lot of the Lions draft being based around players they're going to be seeing next week.
Oh yeah, there's a lot of players there, and some of them I'm actually glad that some of them are on our side. Like, there's no good me watching a safety that's on our team because I want to watch our quarterbacks and their safety. So I'm actually glad they've got Jalen Pitra. So let's say because he's going to be going against some very mobile quarterbacks, and if he's going to play maybe strong safety, I want to see how well he comes down and tries to track them down because you've got some elusive quarterbacks, so I want to see how their defensive backs can even handle that. Can they hold their own and not like miss tackles, take bad angles? So I want to watch them more.
Well, yeah, I mean, like a part of me wants Devin Lloyd to absolutely wreck every single thing we do on offense, just so that they might convince the Lions even more the urgency, just to trade down just a tiny little bit, maybe pick up another pick and get him and Hamilton or someone else. If you leave, I'm really jealous of the guys who've got more than like 2 high picks in the draft this year. Because if you walk away with Devin Lloyd and another top defensive pick, I mean, you win the draft, right? They're just that good.
Yeah, this is Devin Lloyd's chance to prove that he is better than Nakobe Dean. Like I said, I know they play very different positions. Like I said, Nakobe Dean is your typical Mike Backer. He's the leader. He's the play caller. He will come up. He will stop everything in the middle. Devin Lloyd, you're going to blitz him. You're going to use him more of his fluid, his good tracking ball skills. Like I said, comes downhill fast as well. But he's going to have to show this week that he is the guy. Like I say, those teams, there's 2 teams with 3 first-round picks, isn't there? Is it the Dolphins and the Jets?
The Eagles have 3. Jets have 2. Giants have 2. A lot of teams to rip off if the opportunity is there.
They all need, like I said, the Eagles, they've lost Alex Singleton. I'm pretty sure he's in free agency. They are going to be a prime candidate for Devin Lloyd to fill that hole in their defense. So, like I say, he could be taken way too early. I've got a feeling he probably will be. I have a spot where I'm comfortable taking him. I think he'll go before it.
And now the guard's retired as well today, hasn't he? So I think they're going to be in the market for guard as well.
Yeah, that helps. That helps. That means they're going to have to draft an offensive lineman probably earlier than they want to.
Yeah, I agree. So, hopefully they might want to give a pick to get a better one. Maybe an Evan Neal type or Ikwonu, somebody. Let's just hope a quarterback balls out at the combine, and then maybe we might be able to throw a quarterback in there as well. So yeah, that is everything in regards to the Senior Bowl. We've done all the HCBU combine stuff. Is there anything else you want to get off your chest? I know you're busy setting up your awards night that we're going to be having at some stage in the future. But is there anything else you want to get out there whilst we're on?
No, like I say, it'll be in the next week or 2. I've wrote them down on paper. I'm gonna get you to look at them. It's just gonna be like a Google form sheet. Like I say, we'll put the nominations. I've got the college chaps. Like I say, they'll retweet it. Oliver Hodgkinson, they've got a big college following. If they can get the votes in, and we'll just distribute them. Nothing fancy. Like I say, let's see what the people say. I've got biggest upset of the year, head coaches. Like I say, who's on the hottest seat. Like I say, so there's going to be a few nominations for everything like that. So we'll round out an awards show, but no, and then it's going to be start to looking at articles and things like that. So it's ramping up now. Cut draft season is now here.
Tell me about it. The amount of research I've done for this week's show alone is like, oh yeah, we're in the busiest part of the year for us now, and it's only going to keep going that way. But gotta love it. So yeah, that is everything for us this week. So in terms of next episodes, for our main Roar of the Lions podcast, you can catch us Monday, the 31st of January. That is going to be our NFL season review. We're going to take a look at the season as a whole through all the divisions, teams we like, teams we don't like, players we like, players we don't, all that stuff, etc., etc. And obviously, we'll take a look back at the championship games as well, which are happening this weekend. Please win 49ers. Yeah, we will we will see you there for that one. In terms of the college podcast, we should hopefully be back a week on Wednesday. That is the 2nd of February. God, we're in February already. That's mental. I've put to be decided here because we really need to work the schedule out, but we'll give you feedback from the HCBU combine, see who stood out for that, see if any of the players we mentioned really put their mark down on that. And we'll probably be in the middle of Senior Bowl week, so there'll be a lot to go through there anyhow. But we can take your audience requests as well. If you got any draft questions, you want to come on, give us draft questions, etc., just let us know. You want us to scout anybody, we'll do it for you. It's that time of year now, so get sending in your requests to us. And thanks to everyone who has joined us this evening. We've had a few people knocking around, and to those on Twitch, I do apologize if I've not been able to contact you directly. I've nearly got all the software back on my system again, so we will be running this show completely independent again soon, and I'll be able to liaise with you all night long. Just remains for me to go through our socials, so you can find us all over the internet. So on YouTube, obviously following us now, Roar of the Lions UK, Twitch, Twitter, and Instagram. You can find us at ROTL_UK. While we've been on air, actually, I see Matt's released the news. We've now reached affiliate status on Twitch. So to every single one of you who listen on there, we send you our utmost thanks. And as I say, for the college podcast, I will get it back up and working again soon so that we can interact with you on there. Same with Twitter and Instagram, ROTL_UK. Yeah, interacting with us so much on there at the minute, so we appreciate that a lot. Facebook, you can find us on our page Roar of the Lions UK, or you can find us on the group Detroit Lions Fans UK, One Pride Worldwide, and then our website www.roarofthelionsuk.com. As Matt's been mentioning in our main podcasts, we've got some new writers on board with us at the minute, and we're pleased to be able to release some of that work coming up soon. So keep an eye out for lots and lots of articles, because me and Ryan are going to be churning out the draft articles as well as all these new writers coming in. So there's going to be a lot of good stuff to write about. And yeah, if you like the show, just remember to subscribe, rate us 5-star, or if not, let us know what we can do better, and we shall strive to do that. But until next time, just remains for me to thank my colleague for the evening, Ryan McCluskey, and we shall see you again soon. One Pride.
One Pride.